I threw it up at the last minute. I don't know how. I did it yesterday, so it should have been out there, but it wasn't. So let's pop this baby in. Get that in there. All right. Maybe it might be better if I don't schedule, because the one on Sunday was like, okay. So there we are. We are live. It should be working. I'm pretty sure I've got too much light today. Nope, it's the right amount. Welcome, everybody. We're live on YouTube. I just got to check that out now. Hey, Greg. Good to see you. All right. This is over here. Checking out the YouTube. As always, going to go live at 8:30. Let's get all this stuff ready to go. This is mine. That goes over there. Oh, almost wiped out the microphone. This seems to be the theme tonight. Wipe out the microphone. All right, let's just make sure YouTube is working. All right, here we go. Hit that. That's saying we are. Hit that. Let's make sure the sound's right. That's saying we are. Yeah, absolutely working. Well, welcome to tonight's podcast. Let us know where you're from and what you're sipping on. Our guest is Bill McBrayer. And if you have any questions, super chats will get answered. All right, there we go, folks. We're definitely live. Now I gotta see how this plays out. Oh, I'm gonna turn it all the way down. Oh, come on. All right, let's see. There, it's all the way down. Don't want to hear myself at all. Let's see. Okay, I'm out there, but this is like directly in the way there. Let's see if I can get it off the beaten path over here. All right. Is that better? It might be. No, okay. I know this will bend. I know how this bends. Let's see. I might have gotten it. I might have gotten it. Are we ready to go? It's ready there. It's a little bit in there. That's fine. Hey, Thomas. Good to see you. All right. All right. It does seem to be pretty good. I'm not started cracking up or anything like that. All right. Good to know. Ready to go. All right. Let's just quick whip through. Well, let's not whip through. Oh, that's the one thing I almost forgot. That would have been bad. All right. So now. Nope. You're good. Oh, you're going to fall off. All right. That is dumb. All right. I will figure it out. All right. Hopefully that figured it out. Oh, it's not on them. This is just too much for me tonight. All right. Let's see. I'm going to come up. Yeah, it's one little bit thing better. Oh, you are getting in there, but I'll get you out. Everything's good. I'm all hooked already. Yes, ready to go. All right, Whiskey Thief Distilling Company. For some reason, something seems off as far as it's looking good, but I just feel like there's something. All right, Whiskey Thief Distilling Company in Frankfort, Kentucky, on the Three Boys Farm. It's a distillery on a farm, and when you go there, you go down a long dirt road, and you get there, and you walk into a barn, and there's the stills right there, the fermenters, the cookers, all right there in the barn. And for the price of admission, you get a tour. You get to see the stills, the rick house, which is another barn, and then you get to go up to 5 barrels. And the coolest thing is, it's a barrel pick all day, every day at Whiskey Thief Distilling Company. You walk up to those barrels, they will thief samples straight into your glass. And then you get to pick from the 5. There's usually a rye, and then the other ones are bourbon. They can be wheated bourbon and that type of thing. And it's really, really a cool experience. And if you like one of them, they let you grab a bottle, whether it be a 375 or a 750, and you could thief right into your bottle, filling your own bottle. You get to label it, put it all on, and it becomes yours from that special barrel. So basically, you're getting a barrel pick right there, an experience that everybody gets, and you can walk away as many bottles as you want. You could buy the rest of the barrel and bottle it all. Have it bottled. One time I was there, it was a really good rye. The guy liked it, and I think he got the last 12 bottles. And the great staff was working to fill those bottles. They're thieving it right from the barrel. So, Whiskey Thief Distilling Company in Frankfort, Kentucky, and then also make sure you check out their tasting room up in Nulu. It's not a distillery, it's a tasting room with a full service bar and a great music stage, awesome music on the weekends, and the owner, Walter Zausch, is a huge music lover. He brings in some great bands. He loves jazz. He brings in some great jazz artists, and it's a fantastic time. But that experience of the 5 barrels is still there. Price of admission, come in, same scenario, and 5 barrels, and you can pick one and fill your own. So it's a barrel pick all day, every day. And remember, Whiskey Thief Distilling Company is like the Scotchy Bourbon Boys, uncut and unfiltered. Now, we got Middle West Spirits in Columbus, Ohio. Middle West, we were just down there. We just got to see the new 82,000 square foot distillery. It's awesome, folks. They're producing. It's unlike anything in Ohio. It's more like you see a distillery of this size in Kentucky, but they also keep their craft distillery running. And right now, they are in 48 states and on the shelf, and their cask strengths are being featured. They have a cask strength pumpernickel rye. They have a cask strength 4-grain bourbon, and they also have 4-grain wheated bourbon, and then also they have a cask strength wheat whiskey. Fantastic. Plus their Mike Alone brand, named after his family. This is his family brand, and he puts his heart, Ryan Lane, owner, distiller, he puts his heart and soul into every bottle. So you got to check out Middle West Spirits in Columbus, Ohio. If you stop in at their craft distillery and eat at their service bar restaurant, don't forget to mention that you heard about it on the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. And then also our newest sponsor, the Neely Family Distillery. Royce and Rebecca down there. It's happening. I can't wait. We'll be full into this in August as far as putting up getting everything into our social media and whatnot, but bringing them on has been a fantastic thing. We're getting close to, getting everything finalized, but the Neely family distillery, Royce's family history is awesome. Bo Cumberland has done a nice job with documenting the family now and also their history. You just got to check them out. They're in Sparta, Kentucky. They're right off of 71 as you're going down. If you're coming down from Ohio, you're going to pass it on your way there and the way back. It's like 2 minutes from 71. You get off at the exit of the Kentucky Speedway and they're right there. Fantastic distillery, fantastic. You can go there. You can basically fill your own bottle right from a barrel there. They've got these 375s available for sale also. Plus, they've got their Hidden Barn, their Absinthe, and their Jet Brother line all there for sale. It's fantastic whiskey, fantastic bourbon, and Royce is on the verge with this 3-chamber pot still that he's just built from Vendome. It's a beautiful work of art, and it's a challenge. There's not true 3-chamber pot stills a lot in America, and this one is probably, when you think about it, it's probably the best one there. So we can't wait to see what he's doing down there. Get there. We'll be doing something during the Kentucky Bourbon Festival week with the Neely family distillery. But great whiskey, great people. Make sure you check them out. And then Alan Bishop has If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything, his podcast for where he takes the spirit industry and mixes it with the spiritual world and gets stories and everything. Fantastic, great, everything. Check out If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything on Spotify. And then also he has his One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute. Gotta check that out because that's everything you want to know about distilling, and he'll answer your questions from episode to episode. So check that out. One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute on YouTube. All right, so we're ready to go. Tonight we have Bill McBrayer coming on. We got CT should be on momentarily. This should be, I'm pretty sure I'm on the right one. I should make sure. Yeah, I have no choice. So we're going to start at 8:30, but they can come in at any time now. I did have my water. There it is. I'm set up. It looks like if it's happening, folks. This should be a good one. While we're waiting, what's everybody sipping on? Greg. Okay, Greg wants me to ask him, is he related to the McBrayers in Anderson County, Kentucky? Four Roses, formerly Old Prentice, is actually located in McBrayer, not really Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. Yeah, I do know that he's related to yeah, he is bringing back his. We'll get that established. I think we will. I think it should be pretty cool. I'll just sip on one of our sponsors. This Old Elk Punch Cut just came out, and Old Elk is the Middle West Spirit brand, and this should be pretty cool. If I'm gonna just sip on one for the thing, I think I'm gonna not. That's a heavy duty cigar blend. I think everything's going. I've got lots of questions. I know how to do this. Believe it or not, this is our 603rd podcast. I've been doing this a while. I don't know. I hope I'm getting better at this. Just sometimes you think and you're not sure, but I hope I am. It's just, I know that the quality of the podcast and the amount of guests and everything that we've been doing has been going up. So we'll see. We're going to get ready, start at 8:30. Never sure. Just drink. Let's see. Welcome to, okay. John Paulson. He's like, never sure. He just drinks. But what are you drinking tonight? That's the question, I guess. All right. Yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm hoping CT jumps in. There. Okay. There you are. I was having a panic attack.
Why are you having a panic attack?
Because no one had jumped in yet. And it's already, it's like...
It's not 7:30 or 8:30 yet.
Well, I always... like if nobody's like if it's getting there, all of a sudden I'm like, did I do the right invite? Is this the right room? Is this, you know what I mean? I start questioning what I was doing. That's all.
Yeah.
So, yep. How are you?
I think you got it. You're right. Oh, good. Good. Just trying to get stuff done. Still haven't stopped all day. It's been one of them days.
Greg Schneider said Mother Stewart's bourbon and cigars was absolutely amazing.
Awesome.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
It was, I would say it was a lot of work.
I think he's meaning the bottle that he is drinking. The blend. The barrel pick.
Oh, that you sent?
I didn't send it.
Greg
Greg
sent it.
Sent it to him.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that was a good pick. I was glad that we had the option to add that rye in there, because what was a good drink, good bottle was, I think, elevated quite a bit with that rye.
Yeah, I thought that was a good pick. How did it go? Did a lot of people show up
for it? I mean, he took a bunch of people, like, because he was pre-selling it, like, because they have to come there to get it. So I'm not sure. I haven't talked to him other than just thanking him, so I haven't really caught up with him on how he did on numbers with it. But I would say he only had about 50 bottles, so it's probably gone.
Okay. I'm hoping.
But yes, Greg, hope you had a good birthday too, by the way.
Yeah, well, yes, it was happy birthday yesterday, right? Or 2 days ago.
Yeah, it was Saturday. I thought it was Saturday.
It could have been.
But
when we were together, yeah, it was Saturday, because I think I wished him happy birthday at 12:06 a.m. on Sunday.
Yep, and but I heard you say something. I was watching on YouTube there as I was getting set up and stuff, and yes, Bill is getting ready to get on, but they are definitely, he and his father are definitely descendants of the original McBrayers.
Yes.
Hi, Bill.
Hey, Chris. Jeff, how are you?
Great, man.
We're great.
Good to see you at a non-festival setting.
Yeah, get a chance to catch up and say hello a little bit.
Yeah, it's I feel like we are always in a rush when we see you, because it's especially at like Bourbon on the Banks, and you know how that is. We're trying to get 2 weeks of content in 6 hours, and that's very tough.
I mean, that Bourbon on the Banks Festival, it's so big you can't even make it around the whole place.
No.
And really see everything.
Yeah, you're right.
Not no more. And then for us, the amount of people that we know, that even makes it harder, because we try and give people, when you didn't know as many people, you would go with what you knew. But now that we know so many people, I mean, we got last year, it was kind of cool to get you guys in and talk to you. That was awesome. And then you guys, are you at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival this year?
So I think so, but we're going to be part of Bardstown Bourbon's booth. Awesome. So people that are there that contract with them, they're going to bring them in so we can sell directly to, do a tasting. They buy a bottle right there at the table versus having to set up in a store if we're a non-producing distiller, right?
Nice.
So, but hopefully that'll change over the next year, because we're going to put up a still and get our distilling license and all that as well. A little small stuff.
Well, I think like wow. If that's the case, man, just think about how big if that would catch on, how big Bardstown Bourbon Company's booth could become.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're really, since we're not on live yet, right? I think they, maybe 3 years ago when they were so busy, it was like, you're lucky to come in here and we want all this contract work and blah, blah. Now that nobody's doing contract distilling, like they really are treating you like a customer, right? How do we make sure we're adding value and having, non-producing distillers, how do we treat them and get them equal footing with people that are, so we can keep contract distilling. So I've never felt more like a customer with them than I have recently.
Well, that's that's honestly, that's a really good thing. I mean, honestly, it's probably better for them because now the people. I mean, you really got to. We've been going over this pretty hard and heavy since I would say since the beginning of the year. It seems like for craft distillers, this isn't the slowdown as far as being a craft distiller who basically does a lot of stuff from their tasting rooms and their the distillery. It really, because the slowdown hasn't happened in the visitor experience. It hasn't happened on the trail, slowdown on the trail, and it hasn't happened for people who are like chasing allocated bottles. The market's evolved because people have obtained a lot of allocated bottles. You can only have so many Elijah Craig barrel proofs before it's getting ridiculous, and people can look at their collections and see that. So now they still want to go out and buy. So it seems like the craft distillers all have gotten their age on their stuff, and they really kind of have a little bit easier way of getting. If you're a non-distilling producer, you can get the barrels at a more reasonable price. You can do, you know what I mean? There's so much that's available to the craft distillery now that part of the market just seems to be the niche of you guys.
I'm gonna pull this up for you. I just got a note today from a broker, and he said, I've done some stuff with them. If you want 5, almost 6-year-old Green River bourbon barrels, right? If you'll buy 200 of them, guess what they'll sell you a barrel for?
$700.
$650.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean,
now if you want to buy 4 barrels, they'll sell them to you for $1,000. So you couldn't get new make for $1,000 3 years ago.
No.
Right, and then a barrel would cost itself $200. So
yeah, because they had a shortage, right?
Yeah,
so,
and that Green River that's that age, I've had it at many places. It's good stuff.
There's just going to be a whole bunch of it on the market, right? So, if you're a non-producing distiller, I think it's a great time. If you want to get started, it's a great time. For us to, Brown-Forman is a $5 billion business, right? If their sales go down 4%, they need to sell the company. They're all freaking out, right? A guy like us, we go down 4%. We don't care. It's like whatever.
No, you're exactly right. But also the 4% drop for them isn't. It's in the everyday drinker category, and I know you guys have your regulars, but craft distilleries aren't so much where they have things on the shelf where the guy's coming and buying a McBrayer every single day and drinking a bottle. That's not what craft distillers are about, No. But Jack Daniels, Jim Beam, and they have those brands, and that's where we're seeing the slowdown. The younger people aren't buying the stuff that they would drink just to get, to get a feeling. They've changed that, but from the standpoint of good whiskeys and limited editions, and then craft, it's been exciting because
It is.
You guys are hitting this almost at the perfect time.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be interesting for sure. So well, it's going to be exciting to talk about different things tonight. I don't know. We just kind of do this organically. Do you have anything you want to cover tonight before we go get on, or just kind of talk?
Well, I think being on for the first time, and then also just I want to cover your history. There's a lot of people, like even Greg Schneider, just before when he was getting on, when he asked if you were part of the Anderson County, it's Kentucky, and you are. We know this,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
but not everybody
People don't know
does,
that.
and that's
Sure.
something that you guys have. And as you become more and more visible, it would be great to get it out, because it is such a good story.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys are direct descendants.
Yeah, thank you. As a matter of fact, I'm going to grab my other book sitting right over here before I forget. But no, that was great. And Chris, what did you think about the documentary that Bo did? Wasn't it great?
Oh, I like I said, I've watched it 2.5 times, I think.
Yeah.
And Bo's great. He's an awesome guy anyway, and he does such a good job of capturing those moments with people. Like when he's doing those interviews, it's like you sit there and you're trying to put it through your head, like how long it takes to put all that stuff together, cut out those little pieces, make that video. But the history, I did not know how big of an impact your great grandfather is. Is that correct?
He's
the
a
judge
cousin.
would have been your great.
The judge.
Great. He's a third generation, and I'm a ninth generation.
Okay,
And he's my cousin. He's not my great whatever 6th-time grandfather, right? He's my cousin. But and I have that document how we're related in my book.
But what he did back then to then become the Rippies that came into it, and then I did not even realize how the Dowlings were across the street. Living across the street from the Rippies, and then what happened to John, and so it's so interesting for me, and we'll talk about it as we get the podcast going. I don't want to lose people on that, because I feel like the history that's in, it's just, man, it's crazy.
Well, what a lot of people don't know, and Jeff, I don't know if you know this, they offered the capital of bourbon to Lawrenceburg before Bardstown in the 60s. But they had a bunch of religious people there and said they didn't want it associated with their town, and they turned it down. And it went to Bardstown, right? And so now, I mean, if you watch that documentary, I mean, you still got 2 great distilleries there. Now you've got Larrikin there. You got Old Commonwealth coming back into town and all their vintage labels. You got us coming back into town. We've got the 150 acres there now and breaking ground on that this week, actually. And so, it's coming back, right? They got to embrace that somehow, and really, the community there needs to really dive in their history more and attract more people to the town somehow.
Yeah, and I feel like it's headed that direction, because there's just like with you and with what you and your dad are doing, but even the Rippy house getting renovated to where now it's kind of like, if you go, you want to stop and see that, and then the people that bought the Dowling house have it open to show.
What they did with the Dowling house, it is really nice. You can sleep, I think, 12 or 18 people there for between $700 and $1,200 a night, like total. So you could split that up and take over the whole house with a dozen people there in Lawrenceburg.
Yeah.
So we're renovating a house right off of our property that connects it. That'll be our road someday. And it's going to sleep like 8 or 10 or something like that. Little ranch house. Well, no, it's not a ranch. Yeah, it's got a basement and a ranch. Yeah. So it's exciting. It's
well, you can see when you go to Lawrenceburg, because we've been there several times and love that town. I mean, it's just, I like the sign on the side of the building, the red, it says eat, sleep, drink bourbon or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That was always like, I knew where I was back years ago when I would try to go to either, going back across to Woodford or whatever. That was my turn. But this buildings there, you can tell at one point in time that town was wealthy. There was
Yes.
a lot of money in that area. And then to turn into what it became, because everybody knows that that county became one of the poorest counties in Kentucky, so it's similar to Ohio. In Ohio, we had this happen with the coal mining, because the coal mining went through southern Ohio, and the companies would come in, they make it the biggest thing in the world, and as soon as the coal ran out, they were gone to the next town.
Yeah. So, Vincent County, I think, is the poorest county, but Pike County is where I went to school, and it was the second poorest county in the state.
Yeah.
And so now I wasn't from there. We moved there when I was in the 4th grade through high school, because my dad worked for a tool rental company, and they were building the uranium enrichment plant in Piketon. So we moved there, and they were servicing that plant, right? It was the biggest construction project in the world. And so I hear you about the small towns and things in Ohio and Kentucky.
Yeah, it's just, what a venture they go over a decade.
So,
Yes.
Greg said Cedar Brook, Dowling, McBrayer, Old Rippy, eventually Wild Turkey, greatest Kentucky bourbon distillery area in Kentucky, according to him. But let's get.
I think the lady, real quick, the lady in the thing that Bo interviewed, she says at one point in time, 75% of the bourbon being made in Kentucky was made there.
Yeah. Are we live, by the way?
Yeah, we're live.
I didn't know we went live.
No, wait, we're live Facebook and YouTube, but we haven't started the actual podcast, and we should, because that usually starts right at 8:30, and this is kind of like the pregame. So, yeah, a lot of people are joining on YouTube right now because it's 8:30, and then on Facebook too. So the way that it works is that I'm going to play a spot that you won't hear for the audio, and then you'll hear our theme song, and we'll get right into it. All right?
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good. Exciting. I'm happy to be here. It's going to be great.
Here we go.
Can you be any louder with that, dude?
Sure fun to watch. We love what we do. We're drinking every brew. Man, we talk some shit, but we're telling the truth. Yeah, we're the Scotchy Bourbon boys. Raisins in hell, making some noise. Yeah, we're the Scotchy Bourbon boys. We're here to have fun, and we hope you enjoy. We're here to have fun.
Yeah! Woo! All right, welcome back to another podcast of the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. All right, exciting tonight. Another week loaded up. It's a Tuesday night, and welcome everybody that's watching on Facebook and YouTube, and then all of our Apple, iHeart, Spotify listeners. But we have a special podcast for you tonight. We've got Bill McBrayer. Welcome, Bill.
Hey, Jeff. Great to be here this evening.
And we've got CT. CT.
Hey, I'm just hanging on. I'm here. I'm here for the show. I brought my popcorn and I'm gonna sit back and watch the movie.
Yeah, but having tonight is, I think the way that I would like to outline it is that it's historical. I mean, what you guys are doing there with that distillery is establishing. They say right online. One of the things I noticed is that not only are you the president of McBrayer's Distilling, but you're also the steward of the brand and bringing the brand back. And you guys, I will 100% say that you're when it comes to the whiskey and everything that you're doing, you're spot on what you're doing with the whiskey. So
yeah, thanks. It was about 14 years ago when I learned the story about who William Harris McBrayer was, and as a McBrayer, I didn't even know it, and I got obsessed with it and figured out, I thought it'd be pretty cool to retell his story to the bourbon community, and it's been a journey, 14 years later, and we've been releasing product for 5 years, and it's been a passion project of mine, but every day it's getting to be more and more of a full-time gig, I guess you would say,
And
the further you get into it, you and Dad have to be more and more involved, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, and it's a lot of fun. Dad just turned 79 maybe a month or two ago, and it's been great spending that much time with him and bringing this back together. Bringing these brands back, and we're just having a lot of fun, and we feel like even after all this time, we're just starting to get going. More and more people are starting to hear about us. Our products are getting older, more mature, and we did some things different. We did it unique, and I'm excited to tell you more about it this evening.
Okay,
absolutely,
that's perfect. CT, you're going to control what we taste. That's for sure. and
I am?
Well, you guys are gonna. Yeah, you are because.
I better get something poured then if I'm going to be controlling that part of it.
Yeah, that's
All
for
right.
sure. The question, okay, so was there a defining moment when you knew you wanted to revive the McBrayer name when you guys were doing it? Was there like a specific thing, or did it just kind of evolve?
Well, I guess the story goes is that about 14 years ago, my daughter we were looking for colleges for her, and somebody told us to check out Center College in Danville, Kentucky. Small schools, maybe playing some sports and things like that. And I was telling Dad about it, and he said, well, the McBrayers gave some money to that school. And I was like, who are you talking about? And he said, the McBrayer in the whiskey business. And I was like, really? I said, so, my kid wanted nothing to do with going to Danville, Kentucky from Cincinnati. However, I was looking for the McBrayer scholarship at Center College, because if there's going to be one, she's definitely going to apply for it. And, so I was home all weekend looking at it and couldn't find it. I Googled McBrayer whiskey and McBrayer bourbon. And there was a blog post that came up from Jack Sullivan on prepro.com. And if you've never read his blog post, he actually passed away almost 2 years ago now. A lot of stories, a lot of blog posts about all these pre-prohibition whiskey people and brands. And it was W.H. McBrayer, the Judge of Good Whiskey is what the title of it. And I read that, and I literally got obsessed with the story. I probably didn't work for 6 weeks. I was in my office Googling things and doing family research and tracing the brands and found out that the brands had, survived from the 1840s all the way up to the 1980s. So when National Distillers owned the brands and they sold to Jim Beam in the 1980s, Jim Beam let our trademarks expire. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool just to own the family brands? And that's really how I started, just wanting to own the brands. And that getting trademarks and all that stuff was pretty interesting. And there's a lot of stories behind that. And I was able to trademark. I couldn't trademark Cedar Brook right away, which was his most famous brand. His cousin, who started the old McBrayer distillery, I was able to trademark that one. But he had started as the W.H. McBrayer distillery, so I trademarked W.H. McBrayer as a brand. So I had the two trademarks. I thought it was really cool. I'm like, hey, I own these brands. And 6 months later, the attorney sent me another bill for $600. And I called her up and I said, I thought I had the brands. What's in the trademark? She goes, well, have you used them? Yeah, have you put them in use? I go, well, no, I just want to own the brands. And she said, well, you have to, when you have a trademark, you have to use it. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Can I just use Old McBrayer on a t-shirt? And am I good? She said, no, you said you're going to have bourbon. I'm like, oh, great. So I'm going to make bourbon then. So, my wife walks in the door one day and I just said, hey, honey, I'm going to get in the bourbon business. And she said, really? And I said, I don't know anything about it. I'm just going to drink a whole bunch of it. I'm going to figure it out. And so that was the defining moment that we were going to go down this path and figure out how to make bourbon, right? And
so seriously,
what a journey it's been.
The defining moment was when they told you that you had to that you actually had to make bourbon to obtain the trademark, and then you told your wife that's what you were going to do, and she's just like, okay, cool. That is like,
pretty much,
that's amazing.
Yeah. So, at that point, my kids are teenagers, right? And so after dinner, I'd grab a glass of bourbon and she'd say, well, honey, you're going to have a glass of bourbon tonight. It's Monday. I said, you don't understand. I am doing product research, right? You got to do product research. And so, and when you have teenagers, you have a lot of reasons to do a lot of product research, right?
Yeah.
Because I didn't really know that much about it. And so doing all this product research and learning all the different types of bourbon that's out there. And I continue to do all this research, right? And so we're pretty blessed as a family. The McBrayers have been studying their genealogy and documenting it for over 100 years. And so I have this genealogy book here. And this is from the 1980s. And this is just a book on the McBrayers in the United States that was published in the 1980s that goes all the way back from where we came from Scotland to the United States. So the first generation, it talks about it. And there was these three brothers that came from Dumfries, Scotland, through Northern Ireland, through Pennsylvania, fought in the Revolutionary War. And one of the brothers, supposedly they were 21 foot tall and 900 pounds combined, according to our lore there in the book. And James had a son. His name was William, and he was a surveyor. And he came down in the James Harrod settlement, and he was surveying the Wilderness Trail, and some say before Daniel Boone, right? Went back and got his family, and they came to Harrodsburg, the Harrodsburg area, and were granted a couple thousand acres for their service in the Revolutionary War. And then, so, I was doing all this research, and I went up and met one of the historians who's now in his 90s, whose dad was doing the research back in the 50s. And I said, hey, I want to bring back our brands, and we have all this stuff. And he said, hey, that's really cool. It's not that easy. Are you going to use the family mash bill? And I'm like, what do you mean there's a family mash bill? And he goes, we don't know, but we know there's a mash bill from our family floating around. On page like 1000 on Google, there was a blog post by a bourbon enthusiast from 2005. Okay, so it's like a message board. And it's got Michael Veach on there. It's got Chuck Crowdery on there and these other folks. And this is when Michael Veach was working for the Filson Society in Louisville. And he said he had this letter from William Harris McBrayer to E.H. Taylor from 1870. And on the back of the letter had the mash bill he was using. And it was this 88% corn mash bill that they talked about. And they said somebody needed to remake this bourbon and go in the barrel at 105 proof like they did in the old days, and bring back this bourbon. And I was like, well, there's my business plan. That's how we're going to get started.
Well, that's
not
a bad business plan, honestly. One, it's like you got Michael Veach talking about it and the fact that he wants it. And that's one, what would you say, person in the whiskey industry. If he wants it, he probably knows what he's talking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And Chuck Crowdery too. Like at that time, he was very involved in the history of bourbon, and that's before bourbon really was taken off. And so it took me a little while. So then, I told Dad, I said, Dad, you got to hurry up and retire. I've got a warehouse here in Cincinnati that I run a business out of. And I said, we're going to put a still in my warehouse and we're going to figure out how to make that mash bill. And so he's like, really? I go, yeah, we're going to figure this out. Right. And so, yeah, I think exactly. He said something to the effect of, Bill, we are consumers, not producers of alcohol. And I said, well, and he said, I don't think you're very good in science, and neither was I. So I said, I don't know. We're going to figure it out. So we went down to the craft distiller show was in Louisville at that time. And this is probably around 2014 or so. And we're walking around there, and all these craft guys are getting started. And this guy said he was $250,000 into setting up his still before he ever started, putting some grains in there. And I'm like, oh, all I need is a barrel and again, I just needed to fill my trademark. Like, I just wanted to own the brands, right? At this point, I'm not even doing this, right? I'm just wanting to get my trademarks done. I had 5 years to figure it out. And that's how I was kind of going down this path. And so then eventually I thought that was kind of stupid to spend $250,000 on a still that I didn't know how to use in my warehouse. And I was talking to some other guys. I was going to use their still, and they didn't get set up very well. And they introduced me to Pat and Shane down at Wilderness Trail in 2016. And so I took this blog post that had all these notes on it. And I saw Pat and Shane. I said, can you make this bourbon like this letter says? And they said, well, yeah, we could do that. I said, cool. I said, can you make me one barrel? I just need one barrel for my trademarks.
No.
And they said, no, that costs too much. I'm like, why not? You got this little pot still. And they said, no, Bill, that costs too much. But we know who McBrayer is, and this is a big deal. And we have this 18-inch column still. And if we do one run for you, which we don't do for people, but if we do one run, we'll get 10 to 12 barrels, and we'll do that for you. I go, really? And so then they told me how much that was going to cost. And I was like, huh. But I had to do it, right? So then my dad had a buddy that was growing Bloody Butcher red corn in his farm up here in Ohio. And they always said, boy, it makes some pretty interesting bourbon. And I said to those guys, hey, we want to use some heirloom corn. What about Bloody Butcher? And Jeff the Creed, I don't even think was around yet, because this is 2016. And they said, well, yeah, it makes good bourbon. There's a guy out in Missouri called Woodhead Bourbon, Bloody Butcher corn. And we'll call him and get some, and we'll bring it back here. And I said, well, guys, I said, how do you know it's going to taste good? And they looked at me and they go, it was kind of like, we're Pat and Shane. Why do you think it's going to taste good? And so anyway, we made these, we got 10 barrels that December of 2016. And I called my attorney and I said, we made some bourbon. Are we good? And she said, well, have you sold any of it? I said, well, no, I haven't sold it. I just made it, And so, so at this point, I'm 4 years into my 5 years almost with this trademark thing, right? After one more year, I was going to lose it, and I was going to have to reapply and all this other stuff, right? And so I said, well, how do you sell bourbon, right? I didn't know any of this stuff. Well, first you need a federal license. You got to get a federal license from the government, right? And that takes a few months typically. And then you got to get a state license. And I live in Cincinnati. And so I got my federal license, and I called the state of Ohio and I said, I need to sell some bottles of bourbon, some 1-year-old bourbon, or new make bourbon, and White Dog or whatever. How do I do that? They said, do you not understand? We're Ohio. We're a controlled state. We don't do that. They said, go to Kentucky. So I called Kentucky, right? And they said, no problem. We'll give you an out-of-state wholesale license to do that. We just need your in-state license for Ohio. And I'm like, well, they don't give me it. And so that's like dealing with the mafia, right, down in Kentucky. It took several months, and it probably took, it took an interesting thing. You know who represents the Craft Distillers Association in Kentucky? What law firm? It's the McBrayer law firm in Lexington, Kentucky.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And so, there was some phone calls made, and eventually we got our wholesale license, and we were able to bottle 1 year and 1 day old whiskey becomes Kentucky bourbon. Or becomes Kentucky bourbon. Yeah, 1 year, 1 day.
Not straight, but Kentucky bourbon.
It's Kentucky. It's not just bourbon. It's Kentucky bourbon.
Right, because
yep.
Right.
I think you can call it bourbon the minute it hits the barrel.
Yes, you can, but to call it in the state Kentucky, it has to be in there 1 year and 1 day, and then you could ship it off to Ohio and finish it up and still call it Kentucky, but it has to spend a year in Kentucky.
Yeah, and it's just 1 year for the barrels. But anyway, so we're bought on this 1 year old bourbon, and we have these little 375 milliliter bottles, and you stick on labels, and we're just doing 50 of them, right? Dad and I are down there, and we're drinking it, and we're bottling it, and we're like, doesn't this taste good? And it's not supposed to taste good. And there was a guy there that day who was working down there. His name was Kevin Curtis, who used to be a master distiller at Woodford. We had lunch with him. He is a great guy. And he came by, and we're doing the stuff. And I said, do you want to try this? And he kind of did one of these things. He grabbed his glass and he smelled it and he gave us this funny look. And he goes, what'd you do to this? We said, nothing, man. We're taking out this barrel and we're putting it at 100 proof and putting it in this bottle. He didn't believe it. How are you filtering this? And he went over to the guy that was pulling out of the barrel. He came back and goes, guys, this is some of the best 1 year old bourbon I've ever tasted. And I'm like, you're joking. He said, no, it's really good. So that second year we were making more whiskey. We got 12 barrels, right? And so I was like, man, this stuff is good. We're going to be great. Let's double our capacity. We got 24 barrels our third year, right? And then the fourth year, we got 34 barrels made. So for 4 years in a row, we went from 10 to 12 to 24 to 34 barrels. And then when it became 4 years old, we did a release, right? And so we bottled at barrel strength 5 barrels. It was our batch 1. And we have it set up on our website for our Legacy Club. And we sent a note out to our Legacy Club, and it sold out in a week. And it was great. And I'm like, wow, what an awesome business this is. My little hobby. I want to make this my retirement gig. So how do I do that? So then we started laying down 300 barrels a year, right? And then I told Pat and Shane, I said, I'd really like to do some more. And they said, no, we're sold out. You can do 300 and that's it. And the price is going up. I'm like, really? And so we're starting to lay down these barrels. And then I sourced some bourbon to do our old McBrayer label because I wanted to get that trademark. I wanted to keep doing that one. So then we got some barrels from Bardstown Bourbon. And that's kind of how the journey, I guess, Jeff, started. It's a long story, but it's how we kind of got started and down this little rabbit hole.
Well, that's a phenomenal story. I mean, it's just kind of like, and the whole time okay, so the industry has, you have the McBrayer name of all this, and you're trying to obtain these iconic brands to bring it back into the family. And then you're basically the industry. It's almost as if the industry, I feel like, so, okay, this is going to be a crazy thing, but if you ever seen the movie Moana, it was almost like the water was calling her and whatever. It's almost like the whiskey industry is basically doing the same thing the water did to her is doing to you, because you're just going, well, what's next? And then you find out about that, and what's next? And you keep on this journey, but at the same time, well, let's have the greatest ending or whatever, is that you become the greatness back. You bring that greatness back of your name. You did pick great people to help you. You know what I mean? The people who are there make a lot of money. And not a lot of really good bourbon, not money. I didn't mean that. But
they make a lot of money too, or they used to.
But Greg said he would take you on, because he worked for Wild Turkey, Greg Schneider, and he also does 4 branches now, and he used to do distilled chicken cock at Bardstown Bourbon Company.
Oh, I know.
Greg Schneider.
I love Greg Schneider. We've never met before.
Okay. So he said that he would take you on the Wild Turkey property where the what was it? He said
it's the remnants of the Dowling and Cedar Brook distilleries.
Well, let me tell you about a couple more stories about that. So couple things there. So we'll start about the Cedar Brook brand. So I couldn't get the Cedar Brook trademark. So I got the W.H. McBrayer trademark. I've got the old McBrayer trademark. We're putting 4-year-old juice in the bottle. We're selling it through our legacy club. And I really wanted to get the Cedar Brook trademark. And I couldn't get the Cedar Brook trademark originally because there's a wine called Cedar Brook out in California. And actually, it has the same font as our old Cedar Brook bottles on this wine bottle. So I got denied twice, and I called this attorney, and I said, we need to figure this out. So what we did is we were able to trademark W.H. McBrayer Cedar Brook Bourbon, excluding wine. And it cost several thousands of dollars, and it cost several times going through it. But I really wanted that brand. So we got the Cedar Brook brand, and that was pretty awesome. So at that point, we're just continuing to acquire our intellectual property, right? We're bringing back his old trademark that we have on the bottle with the McBrayer monogram. We're doing historical mash bills. Our old McBrayer bottle is a remake of a bottle from 1910, which I can talk about. And so anyway, for all these years, I said I wanted to go see the old Cedar Brook distillery in Lawrenceburg, right? And they said, well, Bill, it's down Cedar Brook Road. I go, but they said there's some homes back there now. I said, all right, it's fine. I'll go down Cedar Brook Road and I'll just go look around. And they said, well, Bill, don't do that, because the guy that owns that property out there, he's kind of crazy. And if he sees you, he will shoot you. I said, come on, man, really? And so I'm talking to Bo Garrett there at Wild Turkey one day.
Yep.
And he said, I love your history. We could, they helped us get started. And so T.B. Rippey worked for McBrayer in 1860 as his master distiller. And he helped him buy his first distillery as his partner. And then T.B. Rippey bought him out a year later. Now, at the same time, he's buying the old McBrayer distillery over in New Market, Kentucky, that was started by his cousin. And then a few years later, he's doing all kinds of other things. So you can kind of picture, bourbon starting to take off right around or right after the Civil War, right? So he establishes the distillery in 1847 down on this property that's down on what's now Cedar Brook Road. So long story short, this would have been almost 3 years ago now. I'm looking for a place to set up a tasting room. And I live in Cincinnati, and I'm looking at this fire station in Covington that's from the 1800s. I thought it'd be kind of cool. And I think this deal's going to happen. And it just gets stupid, and the deal falls apart. And I tell these guys to pound it because I got dumb. And I'm just like, shit, I got to start over. So then I get this call from Joni Clark, who is a friend of Bo's, who goes to school with Danny and Celeste Robinson, who owns the property where the Cedar Brook distillery was. And she said, I'm going to take you down there and introduce you to him. So we drive down the Cedar Brook Road, and if you ever have a chance, we'll get you down there someday. It is way off the Versailles Road. Okay, Versailles Road is from downtown Lawrenceburg towards Wild Turkey and Larrikin, right? And so we go down there, we go to this guy's house, and he comes out, and he's got a beard down in the middle of his chest, and he's got hair down in the middle of his back, He's also in the documentary you just watched, Chris. And he comes out, and I hand him a bottle of the Judge, and he gives me this huge hug, right? And we go into his house, and he's got 6 10-point bucks on the top of his mantle on his fireplace. And I get talking to him, and I said, hey, you seem like a really nice guy. I heard if I'd ever come down here, you'd have shot me. And he smiles, and he says, Bill, I've had this property. I have 50 acres out here, and I've had it for 25 years. And when I moved out here, there was a lot of bad stuff going on in these woods. There was meth labs and all these crazy stuff going on. And he said, I had to get these people out of here. And then he says, so I kind of have a reputation around town. I said, yes, you do. And he kind of smiles. He kind of looks at me, goes, well, let me tell you something. I've never shot anybody. He didn't say he didn't shoot right above their heads or right at their feet, but he said he never shot anybody. And so anyways, he takes us around the property, and he had taken care of this property and loved the Cedar Brook. He loves this piece of property. And he shows us this spring in Cedar Brook Creek that's never gone dry, and where the pump house was right off of the spring. Takes us down where the very first distillery was, takes us up on this hill where the McBrayers built the house in the 1700s, and then takes us down to where the expanded distillery was and showed us all the stuff. And it was remarkable, right? And so we go home that night, and the very next morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, he calls me. He says, Bill, I had a great time with you. And he said, I couldn't sleep last night. I got on the internet this morning, and the attached farm that was part of the property, that was part of the distillery property, went for sale, and you need to come back down here and you need to check this out, right? So I go back down there, and this is 130 acres of farmland that is where McBrayer also put the rail line through Anderson County. So towards the end of his, he was the first judge in Anderson County. He was a state senator, ran a merchant store, huge distillery, right, cattle rancher. And towards the end, he put the rail line through there. He knew how big a deal it was. And so he donated a portion of that land, of his distillery land, so the rail line would run by his distillery, right? And on this property is the old rail line that the city had already started funding to be a Rails to Trails project. So this trail starts at this piece of property, goes a mile to the Cedar Brook Bridge that looks down at the old distillery site. And when you go over that bridge, you're going to end at Wild Turkey. And I'm like, and it's this beautiful piece of property. And I called my wife and I said, well, honey, I think I found what I need to do next. And she says, really? And I go, well, here's this piece of property down here. And, she says, well, you better buy it. I go, well, it's 130 acres. She said, well, you better figure it out. And I'm like, okay. So, so then I bought this, but it was this thing that happened, right? Like you talk about it, those things I don't think happen by accident.
Nope.
No.
It's
right.
a calling. It's call, and it is in this kind of stuff does happen in the whiskey industry, or the whiskey world, the whiskey life. People are so similar in their values. It's just a value. And when they see people who have shared values, things seem to work out. And that's just kind of like that's why when I got into this, I've not gotten out of it. And it's another reason why I love to do the podcast, is because I get to meet people like you, and people are like, well, you should start your own brand. And but I'm like, but that would mean I would be working on my own brand, and I would not be able to keep meeting all the great people that have their brands and talking with them and seeing them, because, seeing you guys go through the journey and all the great things, and to be a little bit of part of that is what's so much fun for me.
Well, you are right. There are so many wonderful people in this that are associated with bourbon, right? And I can't tell you how many friends of mine I've reconnected with over bourbon over the last 10 years because of this. And, like Bo Garrett, I saw Bo Garrett on Saturday at the Rippey House when they did this documentary film release, right? And I mean, he gives me a big, huge hug. He's just like the nicest guy ever.
Bo is,
and all these Cave from, Rabbit Hole, and now Mary Dowling, he was there. Just wonderful, nice, down to earth people that I really enjoy being with.
Yeah. And our big spokesman for Lawrenceburg, like Bo, being that, Bo was willing to be the mixologist, if you will, at Wild Turkey's temporary thing that they had set up there when they were doing the renovation. Bo was doing bartending. He was doing that. He wasn't able to do tours and all that. As much knowledge as the guy had, he was willing to do whatever it needed to be done to keep that, the stories going and all that. I do have one question about the property, we talked about that property before, but is it, so the property that you acquired, is it part of what the original distillery sat on, Cedar Brook, or is it next to it?
So it was a portion of the land that McBrayer owned that was attached to the distillery site. I think there's another parcel that's been attached to it now, but I don't really know, because the courthouse and all the old records burnt down like in the 1960s. So really getting the history behind it. I do know it was documented when Julius Kessler and the Whiskey Trust owned it. There was 222 acres that was part of the Cedar Brook distillery site. So it could have all been there. But I do know that the portion that the rails to trails part that goes right through the middle of our property was owned by McBrayer and part of the Cedar Brook distillery. So yes, where the homes are now, you never want to have a distillery down there now because it's way down the hill and it's all flood area and different things. So it was definitely part of the old distillery at one time.
Well, and I think that's the thing too. And you said that about the flood area, and people, especially with the recent stuff that's gone on at Buffalo Trace for one, and then Glenn's Creek, because he's gotten hammered with a couple of really bad, floods. But people don't realize they were all put there for a reason. The water was the way to get the whiskey or bourbon on to the market to sell it. You didn't have a semi that showed up and had a forklift and loaded it into your truck and took off with it. You had to get it on a boat, get it down the river so you could sell it. And then Judge comes up with this, the thinking about this guy's mind to me is pretty awesome. Like thinking like, here's a judge that's doing all these other things. Like you said, he's an owner of this, he does that. But then he thinks, you know what? The boats are doing great, but the trains are where it's at. And he puts that crazy that train track across that gorge.
So the one that's built, had to be built in the 1880s is the Cedar Brook Bridge, right? It's not the Kentucky River Bridge where Wild Turkey is. It's on around the corner. And you look at the construction of that bridge, I think there's more carbon in that steel. That steel is so hard. The welding is unbelievable. The strapping, it's still sturdy, 50 years later. And now the railroad ties and all those things are all, rotten and things like that. And they have a plan on how to make it a walking path, across it. And so, what a journey this has been, right? And, I own a business. I'm in the commercial loading dock and door business. I started that 30 years ago out of condo. And, I was 25 years old and I needed to provide for my, start a family, provide for my family, right? And that business is about making money, right? And when you get to start a business that's just about purpose, right? The purpose was to retell the story of William Harris McBrayer. And really, the original goal of mine was to get him in the Bourbon Hall of Fame. I didn't even know if there was a Bourbon Hall of Fame. I'm like, man, is there a Bourbon Hall of Fame? He needs to be in the Bourbon Hall of Fame. And that was really the purpose, right? And then eventually, this purpose, let's how do we make this a retirement gig, right? I learned that I'm not going to ever be able to just not be doing something every day, right? I'm built to be doing something every day. And so here we are, going through this and you have all these things that keep happening and are they, what we say now is that the spirits are guiding us.
So real quick question from somebody on Facebook. So O'Sheen Smith asked two parts to this question, Bill. So he said, curious on how big you want to take McBrayer and if you think there's any concerns for sourcing ingredients. And then second, are you planning on trying to harvest any of the old yeast from the distillery still hanging about?
Yeah, great questions. So, I think we have to think about business maybe different today than they did, say, even 5 years ago about this business. And for me, it was a 25-year business plan. It was not a 5-year business plan, ramp this thing up and try to sell it and do what you can. This is something I want to do the rest of my life. These are legacy things for my family. I have no intention. I don't care what the number is. They're not for sale, right? These are meant to be back in the McBrayer family, and we need to protect our family's legacy, right? And so, where do I want to take it, right? So we started out with 10 barrels, right? Now we're putting down 300 barrels. So we have a couple thousand barrels now in our inventory of 3 different mash bills. We have our piece of property. We have our 3 brands now, our 3 family brands. And now we're starting to kind of figure out, can we sell 300 barrels of whiskey a year, right? They're not ready yet. And then if you can maybe do a couple hundred, then maybe we'll do 600. Or, maybe we'll do 1,000 barrels a year. And we just started distributing in Tennessee, and just take it one day at a time, right? There's nobody. The only board of directors I have is probably my wife. As you know, she's a very patient lady and willing to let me do what I need to do, right? And we're having fun with it, right? We kind of, but it's an expensive business. I didn't really realize what it meant to be in the bourbon business. It's a very capital intensive business, right? You're putting down barrels that you might sell 8 to 10 to 12, because we want our barrels to get older, right? We don't want to really put out 4-year-old bourbon. We want to put out 8 and 10 and 12-year-old bourbon, right? And so it's going to just take time.
Well, that's a good thing when you put 8 and 12-year-old. That means when you lay down the 300, you don't have to sell all 300 barrels when they become 4 years old. You can wait a little bit, and as your inventory, but your story is so cool in the fact that you're reviving your family brand, that in itself. But you didn't have to go. If people have the time and the patience, you can start out like you did. You started out with 10 barrels. You only wanted to make one, but you knew, you had to run. And then, and as you keep going, I do want to say that Kirk said hi. He's out in Montana, so he wanted to make sure he did a super chat for that. And then Greg Schneider.
Thank you. Hi, Kurt.
And then Greg Schneider said he's hunted when he was with Wild Turkey, he hunted that land, and he's actually found the remnants of the cedar. Oh, here we go. And the Dowling. All right, hold on. It was back. We're just getting so far down. Yeah, he says he's walked the property and he found the remnants of the Cedar Brook distillery. So he knows. You've seen those already?
Oh, yeah. So we've been down there. We have some documents of it. Some of it. So they just released a documentary. We haven't really talked about that this weekend. By Bill Cumberland, right? And it's the Spirits of Lawrenceburg, and it talks about the history of bourbon in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. And McBrayer was a big part of that, right? Helping TB Rippey get started. A brand that's also out there today called WB Saffel, right? He was McBrayer's master distiller for 25 years. And he helped him 25 years later. Those are pretty big brands out of Lawrenceburg. And Bo did a documentary, and if you have a chance to look at it, anybody here.
And so if you're watching this, it's tagged on our page. I posted it on the stories and so forth. So,
and Bo
it's about 70 minutes, and he does a great job, doesn't he? Bo's awesome.
Yep.
But there's so much history. There's so much history in it because, like the Bond family, the Saffel, and to hear it told by people like Bo or whoever is talking during that. But realize, because I've been into Wild Turkey a couple of times, and they brought out some Bond and Lillard bottles and the Saffel, and they're like, oh yeah, we found these in one of the warehouses, and we were like, yeah, we just need to put it out and sell it, and never knew how the relation to the area was, and how.
Yeah. Well, they started this thing called the Whiskey Barons. That was TB Rippey, WB Saffel, and Bond and Lillard, right? Which are all featured in this documentary. But I always kind of said, and I think they started that after I got my trademarks, right? So if I didn't get my trademarks, they probably would have trademarked McBrayer and Cedar Brook, right? Because he was one of the originals, right? We've kind of focused our brands on 1840 when W.H. McBrayer established the distillery. But we know the McBrayers were there in the 1770s. So I'm sure they were making whiskey, but we've never really gone back and did all that research and deep dive where these families, like the Hawkins and the Bonds and the Rippeys, right? They talked about those things, and they were all kind of related. But McBrayer really influenced all of them, right? And then where he really Lawrenceburg is when he won the gold medal in Vienna, Austria in 1873. He is really known for putting Kentucky bourbon on the international map. And as it talks about in the documentary, he kind of proved the concept of Kentucky bourbon. And then Rippey really scaled fast. Like he went bigger, faster, right? And I have this book called about the history of Lawrenceburg. It was written, it started in the 1800s. It was finished after Prohibition was started. And they said that the Rippey was a bigger distillery, but McBrayer was by far the most famous distillery. On this bottle behind me here, the old one there, the Cedar Brook one, it says it's the best known brand in the world, right on the bottle. And that's how they advertised it. And supposedly, King George, old King George in the early 1900s requested Cedar Brook for his coronation. And so we're still trying to figure out where that's come from. That's family lore that's been passed down by generations. Right?
That's cool as hell.
We want to prove that one, right? And they talked about it in some of Julius Ketzler's ads, that it was the drink of the aristocrats, right? They drank Cedar Brook bourbon. And so when you learn this history, you just feel this obligation to retell it and to protect it.
And you know what I wish, and I think Jeff and I've talked about this, and I understand the alcohol behind it, for teaching purposes. But this is the part of history that we don't teach people in school. We don't learn about it. And so kids learn about the wars and they learn about that stuff, but they don't really learn what caused these things to happen, because to me, that's important. Just like for Lawrenceburg, what happened there in the late 1800s, and then with the acquisition of the bourbon, the trust,
the whiskey trust, yeah,
the whiskey trust that happens just after the turn of the century, that literally smacks the living shit out of the bourbon industry there. And then you go through a prohibition, and it's like, that's stuff we need to understand and teach, because if people knew those things, we wouldn't do it again. We wouldn't let those things happen again, but we don't want to talk about it like in schools. And I feel like it should be.
Well, I never really thought of myself as a history guy, but I'm now a history guy, right? I'm really diving. I really enjoy it. And one of the things I've heard, and I still going to do some more research on it. So the Whiskey Trust they were controlling 90% of the alcohol in this country up to Prohibition, right? So you had the E.H. Taylors that were fighting the Whiskey Trust as independents, right? And that's why he was influential in helping with the Bottle and Bond Act. Now, some will say he didn't have as much impact on that as history, as the marketing says. However, he's competing with that. And what I heard was that the Whiskey Trust, based in Chicago, was controlling 50% of the federal taxes that were paid to the U.S. government from the alcohol taxes. That's why all our presidents came from the Midwest in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
Right. And could you imagine if one industry had 50% of the taxes controlling our government today? I mean, what a crazy thing. And then when they started Prohibition, that's why we had to implement an income tax to replace all that money. And from a history perspective, if you really understood that, you might know something. You might
that income tax goes in effect in 1916, and then between 1916 and 1920, that's when Prohibition is and the Volstead Act. But I mean, once they established that, it's a huge mistake by our government, honestly, because in 1916 they think through income tax they can supplement the alcohol tax, you know what I mean, and then make it up. But it starts in 1920. They did it. I mean, it was so devastating to the farm culture. It put us in the Great Depression. I mean, I don't care what you say. When you can no longer distill the corn and the wheat and the rye that's left over, and it rots, people don't grow it, and then it leads to a dust bowl. And so, when you look at it, it was 1920 to 1932, 12 years. You want to know why they repealed it? One, yes, we're in the Great Depression, right? But the other one is they had such a huge storage that when the politicians no longer could get the bourbon out of Kentucky,
Yeah.
they repealed it so they could start making it again. It's just, and then that's not in our history at all. Like there's,
Yeah.
but it's obvious, right?
Here's another one to tie in there that's political that goes a little different route. But do you know why we're not able to get Cuban cigars?
No, why is that?
John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy found Cuban cigars to be so good that he bought as many as he could get bought, and then he put the embargoes and stuff on Cuba so they could not bring Cuban cigars into the country anymore.
Oh my goodness.
But that's the stuff, we've dealt with this throughout history. But the one thing I was going to say about that goes back to Judge is he died in the 1880s, correct? Somewhere
Yes.
about there. And in the turn of the centuries, when this trust comes along, I wonder, had he been alive with his political hand, I wonder if they would not have came in and been able to acquire all the brands like they did, and then basically say, we're shutting them down and not going to do anything.
So McBrayer had a pretty interesting thing. So he was a devout Presbyterian, as most of the Scottish people were. He and his wife built the church there in Lawrenceburg. When he passed away, his will said he wanted it. He willed it to his grandchildren. Their mother had passed away. Their father was a distiller. His name was D.L. Moore, and he had a distillery. D.L. Moore comes to run the family distillery, and he said 3 years after his death, he wanted his name stricken from the brand. Now, some people would say, that had to do with the Presbyterian Church, the rise of the temperance movement, things like that. Well, then D.L. Moore has to sue his wife, who was very big in the church, right, to continue to use the McBrayer name with the whiskey. And he said at the time that the McBrayer name was so influential, it was worth at least $200,000 to keep it as part of the brand. He actually lost originally to her, but he appealed it to the state Senate, where McBrayer was a state senator, and he won it. And what they said was, his argument was that he didn't really mean he didn't want his name part of the brand. He just wanted his estate not to be attached to the distillery over time, so his estate was protected, because we spoke different back then, right? And so then he won, and he was able to keep the McBrayer name associated with the Cedar Brook brand, which, if he hadn't done that, who knows where we would be today, right?
Right.
And but what was interesting to me was he sold to the Whiskey Trust in 1899. And we were just having a conversation about it after the documentary because it came up so prevalently there. I wonder if there's records of what he sold for. There's got to be somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And how much he got for it. Because we know he remarried and he went to Harrodsburg and he built what was called a castle in Harrodsburg, Kentucky. And then he had all these cattle farms out in the like Oklahoma area. He was a banker and did all these things. So, I don't know. I assume his children got some of the money, but I don't know. Right. And Whiskey Trust, they got Cedar Brook first. Now, towards the end of them acquiring things, they were buying it pennies on the dollar because they were just putting pressure on these distilleries selling, those things. So the history is pretty fascinating. And, there's just always so much more to learn, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think of this? Do you think about this? Like you found your mash bill through Veach, who dug up a letter where the mash bill was on the back to E.H. Taylor from your family. It's your family talking about that. So when you went to Wilderness Trail with the mash bill, did you write a letter and have the mash bill on the back so that someday, 150 years from now, someone can find that letter? What?
That's a great thing, right? That would have been pretty cool. No, we didn't do that. That's pretty interesting. But we are documenting things now.
Yeah, right now you did it right here on the podcast. Maybe someone 100 years from now will watch this podcast and find out. Yeah.
Well, We did start a book, Bill. So we have a book,
Yes.
right? And so we're a brand new brand. We're a brand new brand with an 85-page history book.
That's
right?
cool.
85-page coffee table book documenting kind of where we've been on this journey so far. And then
where's your book available at, Bill? Where can you get it?
It's available on our website.
Okay.
So it's a copy. My wife was very nice of putting that together for us and one Christmas for me, and just to start documenting our history, and that's where it is kind of interesting, right? So Bo just did this documentary, really telling some of the story of Lawrenceburg that most of us don't know, right? And how rich the history is in this little 12,000 person town in Anderson County, right in the middle of all these distilleries, which is interesting too, right? So that documentary talks about there was 14 distilleries right around the Civil War. I looked up a census of 1860 of the people living in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. Guess how many people were living there at the time?
With that many distilleries, probably still it's going to be 50,000.
Yeah, 500 people.
Oh,
500 people are living in Lawrenceburg, and there's 14 distilleries in 1860, right? And we know McBrayer had 11 children, right? And the Bonds had 11 children, and the Rippies had 11 children, right? So there weren't that many families making up all this whiskey.
Well, you guys accounted for like 30% of all the children and family.
Absolutely, and then they married each. So,
but she says that in the documentary, and that's another good point.
So
is that almost everybody in Lawrenceburg, in some way, shape, or form, has ties to somebody in that distilling because of where they came from, how small it was.
Yeah. Bo hits that home.
So anyway, how great is it that Bo did that? How great is that Jack Sullivan wrote that blog on prepro.com 15 years ago that allowed me to, even 20 years ago, right? And I found that, which got me going down this other thing that, and our family did all the research for 100 years and all these other things. So documenting what we're doing, telling our story, getting those things out there, I don't know. It's kind of cool stuff.
You're
Cool.
You're in this, and it seems like you're feeding your desire to enjoy yourself, but not stop working. And I mean, I've talked to I talked to my wife about the exact same thing. I work plant manager at a recycling firm, and it's actually gotten to the point where I've been there 20 years. I've trained staff so I don't have to work as hard myself, all this kind of stuff. But at the same time, I look forward to doing this podcast because, I'll go on vacation and rest and relaxation is overrated. I mean, if I'm not doing something, my body starts to hurt or I just get out of sorts, you know what I mean? And it's just like, you just got to keep going. And that's when you said that, I related to that completely. Now we've done all this, but let's talk about what you guys, as far as the brand goes and like your new releases and all the stuff that you've been going, because we got to promote the whiskey because quite frankly, your mash bill is phenomenal. I mean, I love that you got a high corn mash bill right there, and that is that adds to sweetness, and there's so much that can happen. Plus, you have it's being distilled at the right places and in the right way. So, talk about that.
Yes. So we'll just stay on that. That's our W.H. McBrayer mash bill. So at the time, like I said, we didn't have the Cedar Brook trademark, but we really wanted to reintroduce William Harris McBrayer and somehow honor him when we're telling his story. And so we thought, well, what a great way to do that. And we put that product in a box. Chris, you got one right behind you there. And it you can open it up and it tells our story, and it's got the bottle inside. And I don't know if that one's got a bottle in or not.
What's behind you?
Yeah, it's behind you, right? And so That is our 88% corn, Bloody Butcher heirloom corn, right? 105 barrel entry proof product. And we call that our legacy mash bill. So we call that a legacy mash bill. Nobody does that anymore. 88, it's really 88.4, and I think it's 5.8% rye and 5.8% barley. What was nice about it is Wilderness Trail was able to use an enzyme to help us get the right yield, right? And it's got the nice butter note to it. It's got that nuttiness to it. And it's completely different than anything out there on the market. That product just won a double platinum in the Ascot Awards. Our batch 5 did. And so we call that our legacy mash bill. So then our old McBrayer product, I'm going to grab the bottle behind me real quick. That is this product, right? And so that is our bottled and bond product. So that's a traditional bourbon. So W.H. McBrayer's cousin John, he bought this distillery and started the old McBrayer distillery in Newmarket, Kentucky in 1870. W.H. later bought it, sold it to his distributor, who then later eventually sold it to E.H. Taylor, because E.H. Taylor liked the McBrayer brand so well. He later moved the brand to what is now at the Castle and Key distillery in the early 1900s. And J.H. was still around. And this drywaller got a hold of me maybe 6 years ago. He was taking down the drywall on a bank in Utah, and he found an old McBrayer bottle in the wall. And he sent that to me, and it was that label. And I have that bottle at my office. Okay. And if you look at some of our stuff, I don't know, it may be on Instagram, right? That particular label was in a ton of movies. If you go to watch Untouchables, when they go and break into the bank, if you look in the background, they're all cases of old McBrayer, right? And it was this label. So we're like, man, let's make this label. And I got some signs and ads back here. Back in the 1940s and 50s, it was considered a favorite of Old Kentucky. So we were able to re-trademark that. We're a favorite of Old Kentucky. And we added it to the bottle right here. So this is now an 8-year stated product. It won a platinum award at the Ascots as well, right? Which we're really proud of, because when those judges are tasting all those things, they're tasting everything from 90 proof to 130 proof. And to really stand out at 100 proof in that lineup really kind of is a big deal. And so, so that's our bottled and bond, traditional bourbon. It's 100 proof, 8-year-old age statement on it. It's a $65 bottle. We've had many people put it against Wild Turkey's 8-year, right? We'll put it against the Heaven Hill 7-year bottled and bond. And we feel like we do pretty good against it. So that's our traditional bourbon. It's a 70, 18, 12 mash bill with rye. And so then we got the Cedar Brook trademark last. And so
I need one of those.
to make that one different. There you go. We decided to make that a wheated bourbon, right? So that's our wheat. And so that's a 70, 21.9 wheated bourbon. That one's 100 proof. We've never really entered that one in competitions, but we'll blind that next to Weller all day long. And that's a $55 bottle on our website, right?
Well, I'm in. The Kentucky Bourbon
delicious.
Festival is coming quick, and then same thing with Bourbon on the Banks. But I'm definitely in. You have sparked. I would say last year at Bourbon on the Banks, definitely talking to you and your dad, and that was kind of special. And I got the feel overall. But I didn't walk away. I should have walked away with some, but I didn't. I was just talking, and I can't wait. I'll be in, and we'll have to do something when I get down there.
Yeah. Well, and we've been doing, we've been releasing on our website some single barrels, right? So we're doing a single barrels of Old McBrayer. We're doing some Cedar Brook single barrels. I think when you did some samples, you really liked the wheated single barrel that we did.
Oh yeah.
To you.
Yeah, I remember.
right now we're actually sold out of the old McBrayer on our website, but we have we only have like 2 bottles of a barrel pick left. That was really good. And then we have one, we called it Chocula. And it's a wheated bourbon that's got chocolate notes in it all day long. And it is absolutely phenomenal. There's like 25 of those left on our website. We can ship those to like almost 48 states now.
So Chocula.
And,
so that you're
Chocula is what we call it.
So so that's the Count Chocula cereal kind of reference,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
I know what that tastes like.
Yeah, and I love a char or a chocolate note or whatever you want to call it on a bourbon. I mean, to me, that's one of my favorite notes in a bourbon. And that one's full of it, so it's one of my favorites. So we're doing single barrels. We release stuff through our Legacy Club, and then we are distributing limitedly in Kentucky right now, and we just started distributing in Tennessee, and so we are starting to distribute a little bit. We can do restaurants and bars in Ohio, wholesale only. So if you have some bars that want to get stuff in Ohio, and you're up in Canton. I love Canton area. My wife's from Akron, right? I went to Baldwin Wallace College up in Cleveland, so love that area. Spent a lot of time up there, and things.
Well, if it's there's a place in downtown Canton called oh my God, Allegra, and they just opened downtown. I know the bartender used to be at Gervasi. I will get you in touch with those guys, and we'll get it up here along with Bender's. Probably they would love to have your stuff too.
That'd be great. Yeah. And so we're just having a lot of fun. We're going to see. We I don't remember talking about it. We just broke ground. We're just moving some dirt later this week to put our first building on the property. We're putting a little pole barn up. We're going to get all the tractors in the pole barn. We're going to take the existing pole barn and we're going to get it cleaned up and put in a small still. And we're going to put in a bottling line so we can be a distiller, and then put a tasting room out there. And then probably the next phase would include a rick house, right? So we can really put our stuff out there on the property, go out and taste some barrels, bring it in and bottle it, right? Our goal is to do a traditional rick house. We're a very old traditional legacy brand. You can't be doing this, palletized stuff. We got to do it the old way, right? And that's our goal, right? So we got a lot of work ahead of us the next couple of years. We've got bourbon that's continuing to age. We're looking at some, we think this is a great time for NDPs, right? We've got these 3 mash bills, and we want to have our core lineup that we just talked about, right? The WH product is a little bit unique every year, but these other 2, we want to make those staples. And then, how do we do something unique and different? We're still thinking that through. We've got some ideas with some different labels and something that is part of our legacy that we can talk about. And it's going to be exciting.
Well, I'll throw out, I know that Liberty Pole in Pennsylvania had the Kentucky, I forget, I'm not going to, but the main Kentucky coder, I believe, came out and built them a rick house, and they were able to do it in 2 days, a smaller Kentucky style rick house. It was like because if you get it at a smaller proportion, it goes fast. I mean, they just had it. I mean, he was like, it's something.
They a large rick house in a matter of a couple of days.
Well,
they bring it in ready to go.
Yeah, but I don't think he's going to be doing a 20,000 barrel rick house.
No, but maybe 10.
Okay.
Right? If the goal is to get to 10-year-old products, you got to have enough space, right? And right, and we got 3 different mash bills that we're trying to age, and honestly, there's a lot of barrels aging in Kentucky that are going to need a home someday, right? So who knows where that might go.
Well, and Greg says, building on Cedar Brook Road, wish you best of luck.
Well, we're a little bit off of the road now, right? And so, and we have the opportunity to put a road in off of Versailles Road onto the property. It's a beautiful piece. I'd love to get you guys out there and show you the property someday.
Yeah.
And
well, we'll be down there for a week during KBF, which that's kind of crazy, but we'll be down there for a decent amount of time during Bourbon on the Banks too. So
Yeah.
we stayed the 1 year we stayed in Lawrenceburg
Yeah.
during the Bourbon on the Banks.
Tell them.
That was interesting.
Well, tell them the house that we stayed at.
Well,
It was historical.
Is it the Boys and Girls House? Is that what it was called?
It's the house it's a large house. It's got a historical marker, and it's it went right outside of town. And it was the gym that Jimmy Russell played basketball as a kid in high school is right behind the house.
Oh wow, that's cool.
It's still in town though. It's on your way like from in town going out to Wild Turkey. It's on the left, but it's right at the edge before you get to like the gas station. But
oh yeah, sure.
It's a big old white house that we did we had the whole group, like all of the Scotchy Bourbon boys. We stayed there, which it was fun. There was a pool and it was historic as crap. And we had an interesting time. That started our no drama. That became the new theme of anytime we went anywhere. No drama.
Well, I tell you, if you want to, it's only 20 minutes up to Frankfurt, right? If you can get in the Dowling House, man, that's a great place to go to.
I would love that. That would be awesome.
Right. So, what we got new coming up? Well, we just did our 250th release back in June for the 4th of July. I think I got one of those left here. Well, I think the bottle's in my bag, but we did a red, white, and blue label. This one sold out in like a week and a half, right? We sold this one out. This was the W.H. McBrayer mash bill. But we did a completely different profile. It was more like an apple and pear notes, like a fruit notes, almost like an apple pie, right, for the 4th of July. And we called that, Scottish Roots American Spirits, right? And if you're going to do a 250th release of something, what better brand than the McBrayer brand? Because, we were here for all the wars, right? And there's a McBrayer spot in every war this country's ever had. And so that was really special. We still got a little bit of batch 5 last that was our award-winning deal. And so we're not sure when batch 6 is going to release. We're thinking about potentially doing a rye just for the wintertime, a small release to our Legacy Club. And thinking about, a couple other things.
So was it, as you go down this journey, as you went trying to make one barrel to keep a trademark and then making 10 and then you're up to 300 barrels at the moment, and I would say it's no longer a hobby. It's more or less a passion and and as it goes, but are you surprised at the response of like when you do a release? That's one of the things that I've always said about the craft distillers right now. It just sells out.
Yeah, I mean, we have this cult following, right? And the following's continuing to get a little bit bigger. Every year we're trying to, we kind of we were in this little funk where we didn't have enough barrels, right? So we were trying to do some things, and so now we're getting, our names getting out there more. We're meeting a lot more people. They're coming back because they like the product, and yeah, it's like a drug, man. Like you get so excited when you're like, man, I hope somebody buys something, and then it's like gone in a week, and you're like, oh man, that was awesome. What can we do next, right? And would I've ever dreamed I had 2,000 barrels aging and 150 acres of property and all these trademarks, and I feel like I'm just getting started? 14 years ago, that I was in a documentary. We were just in Bourbon Plus magazine last month, a huge article about us. No way, man. Like this is like way better than I ever dreamed it would be, right? And what was really cool, let me tell you the best thing about what I've done. And she just texted me. So, my daughter that was looking at this college thing, I learned the story about McBrayer, and she's a little volleyball player, and after a volleyball game, we go out as a family with all the other parents and we go get drinks or whatever and food. And I'm telling these bourbon stories as I'm learning them. And I know they're really cool, right? But, at least I think they're cool. But my family has to hear the same story like 50 times, and so then, when your daughter's a teenager, it's really easy to embarrass her. So eventually it becomes, hey, Dad, we're going out for drinks tonight with the families. Can you do me a favor and not talk about bourbon because you're really embarrassing me, right? And I'm just like, come on. Well, now, my son is 26, my daughter's 29. We've got this thing, and now we're cool. Like now bourbon's cool, right? And and I said it was always cool, right? But what was probably the best part about it is that you had this silly idea sitting in your chair that we're going to figure out how to get bourbon. At some point after dinner, the kids started betting when Dad would pass out in his chair because he was drinking bourbon, doing product research every night, right? And it became this joke. But you just keep plugging away after 14 years, and now you got at least something, right? We're something, and they get to see that, and they get to watch it from the beginning to where it is now. And then now they're starting to get old enough to say, hey, how can we help you with this? And how can we be part of it? And I'm like, you guys need to figure out your own thing, right? But they can help do something, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just this small little business that is a hobby that I don't take any money from. And you just keep reinvesting and do these things. And they're like, well, do you want your kids to have it? And I'm like, yeah, if they want it, but that's a burden too, right? Family businesses can be a burden. So it's not their burden. If, it's my thing. And as long as I'm alive, it's going to be happening. And then after I'm gone, hopefully they'll have it and they'll want to take care of it. But I don't ever want it to leave the family. But it's been pretty cool for those guys to see the journey and to do it with my dad. My wife is involved, and we're starting to get a team around us that's starting to help us out. And they do it because they love the story and they want to be part of it. And how cool is that?
Yeah, it's
the fact your dad is involved, and your dad is just, and
great.
I know he wasn't on tonight, but people have to know your dad. He's just the sweetest guy. Like he's just nice as could be. He's just is so soft spoken. Just, he has to be an awesome grandparent to them. So for your kids to see Dad and Grandpa working together on this legacy, I can't imagine they don't want to be involved.
Well, it's pretty fun to hear that, right? Because, Dad just turned 79. Dad's up in Alaska fishing today. So he does that every year, and he and his buddies go fishing, and that's his thing. So I'm sorry he couldn't be on tonight.
Okay.
But, Dad, when he was younger, man, he was a hard driver. He kicked our butt, right? And now, as we go through this and at some point you're always working for your dad, but I think he's starting to understand that maybe, I'm able to do some things now without him. And, as far as running a business, but we do it together. We've only argued maybe a few times about it, got a couple disagreements about it, but he is such a wonderful guy, and he's mellowed out. He's gotten older, and he loves being part of it too. And he's the house that we bought on the property down there, or part of the property. He's been down there helping run the renovations and getting it, cleaned up. And again, I think, going back where we were talking about things, you got to have purpose every day. You got to get up with purpose every day. And that's what this is. And that's what it is for him too. And when you're doing something that's bigger than yourself, right? You're doing something that's historical. You're bringing back a legacy. And when you do that, right, you have to protect it, right? I can't screw it up. I'm building on somebody else's back that started this thing 170 years ago, right? You have a responsibility there, right? You have a responsibility to not screw it up, not do the right thing every day, right? Protect the brands, and that's a big responsibility.
So Greg said, just to throw this in there.
Yeah.
So the retained attorney for Wild Turkey, guess what his name was?
Was he a McBrayer?
Yeah.
Really?
He was.
Yeah, he says I believe it was your dad.
No, it wasn't my dad, but it's not Carl McBrayer. He's the historian. The McBrayer that was the retained attorney that the McBrayer firm. He was pretty big in the bourbon space. It might have been from the McBrayer firm that was working with Turkey.
No, he said it was.
There and then Lexington.
He said it was from Lexington.
Yeah, he said they retained him while he was there, and then at one point they realized they didn't need him because they never needed any. So they let.
Well, and then the head of operations right now at Four Roses is a Brian McBrayer.
Okay.
From Moorhead, Kentucky.
Wow.
And so a lot of McBrayers still floating around. It was a forgotten name in the bourbon space, right? But the brands were part of bourbon for 140 years. It wasn't just a small amount of time. It was 140 years.
Yeah.
Right? That's a long time. And,
and not just a small amount. I mean, made a humongous impact in what became Lawrenceburg's bourbon. It's
it's cool.
Would Rippy be there? Would any of those really have taken and done what they did if it weren't for that path put down?
So Rippy became Turkey, right? Rippy became Wild Turkey.
Rippy became Turkey.
Yeah. And then you're restoring the McBrayer name, and then Mary Dowling's restoring the Dowling name, so they're all going forward, and becoming part of the bourbon industry again. And history is just so amazing in the fact that, especially in the bourbon, people don't realize that it's something that just keeps going and lasts, and it might be shelved for a while, but at one point it comes back. Now, how it comes back is there's many different ways for stuff to come back. Some of it can come back poorly. Other times, other things are much better, and I think you're doing your family name, justice.
Thank you. One last story about his influence. So his sister Mary was very influential in his life. It's a long story there. And she remarried later in life, and she remarried a doctor in town, and they had a kid together, and he was orphaned. They both had passed away when the kid was 6 years old, and the judge adopted him, and his name was C.M. Dedman, and he helped him for his wedding present. He gave him the money and land to start his distillery over in Harrodsburg, and his brand was called Kentucky Out. And so
Dixon
Dedman,
yes,
is a McBrayer in some ways. Okay. And so when I went to the Beaumont Inn and I met Dixon because I learned the story, right? I actually read about it in our family history book. And I'm like, I was going around asking these people, hey, I need to make bourbon. I tell them the story. They go, oh, that's a really good story. You're doing like Kentucky Out. I'm like, I don't know who Kentucky Out is. I don't give a shit. I just want to do this because I want to, right? And so then I learned the story that, he was influenced and started by the McBrayer, the judge. And I went to the Beaumont Inn, and I asked for Dixon when I had our 1-year-old bottle. And I said, hey, I want you to try this. And he took me to his tasting room, and he has a picture of the judge in his tasting room. And I was like, no way. Right? And so that was pretty cool. He's been such a good person at the beginning that I was able to bounce ideas off of. He actually helped me blend batch one, showed us kind of how he did something with a 5-barrel blend. And he's so talented, and he's such a great guy. And I'm so happy for what he's done with 2XO. And
then his association with Mark Carter. I mean, it's just and the old Carter brand. I mean, so it's just what's great is sometimes you don't sit back and realize 100 years. There's going to be an aspect of what's happening now that will have been written about, and people 100 years from now that will be doing things will be reading about this and us, and you know what I mean, and you and what the whole thing where they might put together Mark Carter with Dixon Dedman and then yourself, and how it all evolves, because that's what we're doing right now, the history, reading back about the histories. And it's like, that's one thing that this like, that's where you become the steward, because this is timeless, right?
Yes. Bourbon will always be around. Kentucky bourbon will always be great. And, we'll see what happens over the next generation or two. But if you build a solid foundation and you're doing it the right way, it should have the opportunity to succeed. Right. And it is a tough space, right? I mean, I was just talking to somebody about one of the big brands who was working there, who'd left, and they bought some stuff. And he said, man, these corporate guys, they don't know anything about what they're doing, right? About the entrepreneurial side of maybe starting a brand. And a lot of these brands are probably not going to make it, right? But when you don't have anybody you have to report to, do whatever you want, So
and you grow organically instead of by a spreadsheet and having to meet quotas for investors.
And we're doing it slow. We're doing what we can when we need to. We don't have to talk to a bank. We don't have to talk to a board of advisors or investors. It's me, my wife, my dad, right? We're doing this because we want to. I'm going to do it the rest of my life. And it's my job to protect these brands and to put out good products. And really, I hope that people will try us. I hope they'll give it an honest review. I think we're very proud of everything that we have out there. We like all of our products.
Your products are great, and I can't wait for a 2XO collab.
That would be cool.
Would that be a double oaked or double barreled or extra oaking?
It's just going to be called the Oak.
The Oak.
It'd be called McBrayer XO.
Yeah, McBrayer XO. Well, what's probably true is that Dixon's great-great-grandfather or whatever it would be probably ran around the property that we have today.
Well, that's cool. Oh, I mean, you could even, the brand could be based off of the judge and him, those two, and you could come up with the name just off that collaboration.
You never know. I really want to do a father-son release, like Father's Day release type of thing. That's a unique release just for Father's Day. And take advantage of that while we can, and do some other fun stuff.
So I think we should wrap up the audio part, and then do you have any time after for about 15, 20 minutes? Because we do invite people to come on. And I think Greg Schneider is, he does a lot of consulting and everything. And he's basically dying to talk to you, because all night long.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So I'll throw it out to them, and I'll end the podcast right now real quick. As far as audio, and then we'll still be live on Facebook and YouTube. All right, everybody.
I really enjoyed being out here today with you guys. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on, Bill.
Hey, this has been in the works for at least 2 Bourbon on the Banks. I'm glad we got it done before we made it to the 3rd one.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, everybody. At your website. Tell everybody about how to find you on your website.
Yeah, so it's McBrayer Legacy Spirits. We're also on Instagram and Facebook, and we communicate to people through our Legacy Club. So sign up for the Legacy Club, doesn't cost anything. They get first opportunities when we do releases. If there's anything left over, then we'll go maybe to some stores and things like that. But we do a lot. The Legacy Club bought out the 250, right? And hopefully we'll have more of those in the near future. So McBrayerLegacySpirits.com. If you ever want to get a hold of me, go to the contact me page. That comes straight to me, and would love to hear from any of you.
All right, great. And we're www.scotchybourbonboys.com for all things Scotchy Bourbon Boys, Glencairn's t-shirts, and stuff like that, bourbon balls sometimes. And then remember, we're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, X, and also Apple, iHeart, and Spotify. no matter what you do, whether you listen to us or watch us, make sure that you leave good feedback, become members, leave super chats, all that fun stuff. We put it right back into everything that we do. And then also, good bourbon equals good times and good friends. Make sure you don't drink and drive, drink responsibly, and live your life uncut and unfiltered. And our AI will take us out.
Wake up, sunrise and boots on the floor, working hard all day till you can't no more. Life rolls on, but the choice is yours. How you play it out when you walk through that door. One bottle, one drink, one pour. That's what the Scotchy Bourbon boys got in store. Tuesdays, Thursdays, come pull up a seat. We'll taste through the whiskey on the rocks and eat. Bourbon Scotch or a good old rye. Japanese, Irish, yeah, we'll tell you why. So wherever you're sipping, near or far, tune in with us from your home or your car. One bottle, one drink, one pour. That's the podcast you've been looking for.
All right. So I got that. I did
All right,
send
so
out.
we're off now. We're not on the air anymore.
We're on Facebook and YouTube. We're just not recording the audio.
Okay.
Like the
Okay,
audio is the podcast. You know what I mean? That's where we
Yeah.
get official. But YouTube and Facebook were. And so I sent it out to the people on Facebook, and they should be joining us. Oh, there's a couple that already have, I believe. Let's see.
Yeah,
Somebody.
I think O'Sheen's coming on, and
Yep.
there was a couple of questions there. So
All right. And I'm going to imagine, I can't imagine Greg not coming on.
but yeah, Bill, you don't have to stay on long. As if when you're ready to go, just
Yeah, well, thank you. I had a cup of coffee before I got on, so I'm still, I was
you're
pretty
still
tired.
doing
I'm doing good. So, that was great. Now, Greg was part of Chicken Cock, right?
Yes.
He just, yeah.
And West Virginia Barrel Company.
Yep. Kind of, and I mean, he's been in the industry enough. He's cut his teeth in so much with the Wild Turkey family, and just he's been in so many facets of it. But he is just he's one of those wealth of knowledge people that just knows everything about all of the,
Yeah.
not only the lay of the land, but the trees and what produces a better barrel than this or that, or he just very involved.
I've listened to him on several podcasts over the years. Just learning about the industry and things. So it'd be great to meet him.
Yeah.
I should.
Yeah, we when we have been on before, we typically do this same format, and people will come on, and we had a guy from here, another brand that had been brought up, and they were in Ohio, was the largest mail order whiskey brand.
Hainer.
Yeah, and so in which they're a Bardstown, product as well. So Greg from Taylor from Hainer was talking about things, and then Greg Snyder got on, and before I know it, Greg Taylor's sending Greg Snyder bottles of stuff to try, and it's like
Cool.
The connection's great. It's there's just so many great stories in the bourbon world that Greg said, "Send me the connection, Jeff."
Yeah, I will. All right. He wants it direct.
Great stories.
Let's do. I'll go to. Let's just. Here it is.
Bill, are there any Saffles left around? Like, I don't hear that name though.
No, the Saffel house is still there. It's a funeral home. And what's interesting is the Dowling house at one time was a funeral home. All those homes right there on that street became funeral homes, and they've been renovating them. They really had a hard time talking about W.B. Saffel in the documentary. That's why Bo did, because they couldn't find any descendants of the Saffel family.
Yeah. A lot of the Bonds, obviously, there's some of those, but the Saffel just seemed like a really thinned out family.
There we go.
There's a Bond that lives there, Bob Cole, but he's a Bond, and his family actually used to own the old McBrayer farm where James McBrayer had it, but their family sold. It's now a residential thing. But if you ever been in Lawrenceburg, there's two things. The funeral home that's right outside of town, the cemetery, you just need to drive through it. I mean, the McBrayer monument is there, and then there's the Saffel one, there's the Rippey one, there's the Dowling one. It's like the, who's who cemetery of bourbon history right there outside of downtown Lawrenceburg. It's pretty
absolutely cool. Amazing history of the bourbon industry right there in the cemetery. Wow.
Yes. And I guess up on a hill where this residence is the old McBrayer cemetery where WH's dad, Andrew, and his grandfather are buried. So
cool.
Is this Greg?
Yeah. Hey, Bill. Nice to meet you, buddy.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Thank you. Thank you. You spent a lot of time in Lawrenceburg at Wild Turkey.
Oh my God. I was there a little over 10 years as the vice president of Austin Nichols and the managing director. Jimmy and Eddie, worked for me, and at great times. I mean, Jimmy is, to me, one of the greatest. I actually created Russell's Reserve as a tribute to Jimmy. He listened to Campari. Campari says that Eddie created a brand. That's bullshit. I'm sorry.
They were talking about that last. Bo was talking about it. Bo Garrett was talking about it. He spoke for about 20 minutes, before the movie.
I didn't see it. Yeah, I didn't see his video he put together. I'd love to see it. So yeah.
Yeah. He said that Jimmy's 93. I think he said now.
That's about right. Yeah, my mom's 94, so Jimmy's 92, 93. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and he said, you know what tells him? He said, that Wild Turkey juice isn't going to kill anybody because he drinks it every day and he still comes to the distillery every day. Right. Well, and so I thought that was really awesome.
He's again, you got to know, Bill, I grew up, I've been in 48 years, and, Booker Noe, Elmer T. Lee, Parker Beam, you name it. Jimmy Russell, these guys were my idols, and I worked with them, and all of them actually. And they were just they were the epitome of the old school growing up. Okay, and when you got around those guys, you just shut your damn mouth and you listen to them because you could soak up so much. Just turn into a sponge. You could soak up so much knowledge and experience and knowledge from these guys. They were great, and I love them all. And
so I met Jimmy one time. It was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and they were in the temporary visitor center when they were building a new one, right?
Yeah,
and he's sitting there
across the old distillery. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and so down the hall is where they had that bar, right? They had that little bar down the hall.
That's where Bo was at.
Yeah, where Bo
was there. That's when I met Bo for the first time, and I had my McBrayer shirt on, and he Jimmy looks at me and he points down that hallway and he says, Four Roses is over there, and I'm kind of like perplexed because I'm at Wild Turkey. I'm like confused. And he goes, it's over there in McBrayer, Kentucky.
Exactly.
And so
many people don't know that. No,
yeah. So when you go to Four Roses, I assume everybody here's been to Four Roses. When you go over the railroad tracks, those are the tracks that McBrayer put through.
Yep.
And that was the McBrayer crossing.
Yeah.
And so today they actually have a McBrayer sign still there at the railroad tracks, and that became McBrayer, Kentucky. And so that was named after the judge for putting the rail line through there.
Yeah, I've raised that question because again, I it's always, again, I started in the industry in 1978, Bill, with Seagram's.
Yeah.
And back then, Seagram's owned the old Prentice Distillery, which is today the old
Four Roses.
The Four Roses, yeah. And exactly right. You cross those railroad tracks, the sign says McBrayer. And I knew some of the old McBrayers that lived in that area, but maybe I'm sure they were relation to you, but I said, it's actually in McBrayer. It's not in Lawrenceburg. So yeah,
It is. And so
Did you see that book? Did you see the book that he has on the family?
Oh, this
Bo?
one.
No, Bill. Watch.
Bill,
Look at.
okay.
Look at. They're all those.
That's just these are McBrayers in the United States, and this was written in 1980.
Oh wow,
1980.
So I'm sure they're in there.
I'm a ninth
so I gotta say,
generation.
when I worked at Wild Turkey,
Yeah.
the warehouses across the street from Four Roses were
Yes.
owned by Wild Turkey.
Correct.
We should.
And
After
they're known
the
as
fire
the
we
McBrayer
had,
warehouses.
yeah, we still have. They still have 4 over there, I believe. I don't know if
They do.
We had 6, and after the fire we had in 2000, there were so many that were too close. We couldn't land burn. We had to kind of empty them and just shut them down. And so anyhow, so Wild Turkey still owns 4 over there. Yeah.
They do. And when I first was getting into this, the brown box, I think I have it behind me. The Master's Keep, this one.
Yeah. Remember
This one right here?
Yep.
Right? So we were walking, we were just going to a tasting in Cincinnati, and there was this rep, this really good looking lady, was selling, giving tastings, and she was at Master's Keep. And it was a cigar night too. So all these guys were out smoking cigars, and we looked at this box, and it says, these are sourced from the McBrayer Rick House. I'm like, what? Right. And so these are the Rick houses across the street from Four Roses that we're aging those barrels in.
Exactly. We had at the main facility, which was DSP 67 in Lawrenceburg there. And then we had warehouses over at McBrayer, and we had warehouses at Camp Nelson. So we had actually three DSPs in the local area.
Yeah.
But
It's pretty amazing to get to trace all that. I sure would like to get some barrels from that McBrayer Rick House and do some kind of special blend with my dad.
they were good. They were very good, actually. Yeah, they were good. The old style warehouses. I mean, I had a hell of a time climbing up those stairs. It like to broke my neck. I had to buck down. I'm 6'2", and I had to really kneel down to get up those damn stairs. And I'm serious. The walkways, they were old style walkways. They were actually built for 48-gallon barrels, but we had 53-gallon barrels in them. So yeah,
pretty interesting.
Yeah,
very cool, Greg. It's very nice to meet you.
Likewise. Yeah. This is great. So these guys, Jeff and his whole crew, CT and Super Nash. I mean, they've just been great. I've been hanging with them for a number of years. But I've been in this business like 48 years, and it's great to have guys like this that can take our brands and promote them to an exponential level. It's wonderful, and these guys do a great job, and it's good to meet you. I mean, I love this because I get to meet new people coming into it. And, so
it's been fun, and I've listened to you many times on different interviews, and when you're learning about an industry, you have to learn from somebody. So podcasters is how I learned about a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And learning about stories and hearing interviews, and what you did with West Virginia Barrel Company and helping get Chicken Cock started back up, and then I've met Drew Hannish, who helped rediscover some of the history of Chicken Cock. Actually, that guy, he dives so deep. I want him to even help me dive deeper into the McBrayer stuff, because he knows how to do all that research, and he's good at it. And I don't have the patience for that kind of stuff, and things. So, it's been fun hearing the stories about what you've done over the years.
Yeah, well, it's what I do, and I love it. And again, I've been there a long time. It's easy peasy for me. I just kind of got a couple of consulting clients, and enjoy working with them, and promoting their story, and so yeah, it's good. I love it.
Hey,
Very
Bill,
cool.
I turned 70 last week, man. So
That's awesome.
and happy birthday again to you, Greg.
Yeah.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, happy birthday, Greg.
But Bill, you talked about, so I had this, so you know how when people talk, sometimes your mind just goes down you create your own vision of what they're talking about. Like,
Yeah.
so you were talking about walking up to that guy and you walk in his house and he had all those deer mounted on the wall. So if you ever think about, let's visualize this. You go to meet Greg and you're like, hey, Greg, it's finally nice to meet you. Greg's going to take you into his house. What do you think's going to be in Greg's mantle? Do you think it's going to be the deer? What do you think it's going to be?
Well, there's a lot of wild turkeys in Lawrenceburg. Do you have some turkeys?
His attic has a row of stuffed turkeys.
Well,
Very stuffed turkeys.
not only
So,
not only
so
that, but then it's like you go upstairs and there's this bedroom and it's got wild. But every wild turkey almost has a bottle associated with it.
Yeah.
He's like,
no. You guys you're embellishing and way too much. So yeah, let me tell you, I started in 1998 as the vice president of Austin Nichols and managing director of Wild Turkey, and that's when Jimmy worked for me, and I love Jimmy. I mean, I would do anything in this world for Jimmy, and God, I just hate it when he's gonna move on in this world, because he's been such a precious friend and just a great guy. Anyhow, I had joined the National Wild Turkey. I'm a hunter, a fisherman. I love the outdoors. And a year before I started working at Wild Turkey, I became a member of the National Wild Turkey Federation. Well, when I joined Wild Turkey Distillery, I find out, hell, they're a huge sponsor. And so the marketing guys in New York City don't know shit about wild turkey hunting in general, the outdoors, nothing. They said, well, we want you to negotiate our contract because we don't know what this is all about. So, okay. So I did. And we enhanced it. I mean, we gave them like 125 grand a year, but what we got for that was worth probably $2 million a year. I mean, it was crazy.
Wow. That's
The
awesome.
exposure that we got, and that was the hottest conservation organization and hunting organization in the world. It was growing exponentially. And anyhow, long story short, it was great. We did some things that were outside the box that companies didn't do back then. Spirits companies didn't advertise on TV. It wasn't illegal, but we didn't do it. And that's when the cable channels all started coming on, so on and so forth. And so we did some hunting shows with me and some of my colleagues, vendors, whatever. And we didn't promote the distillery, but you see a hunting show and it's got a wild turkey bourbon cap or wild turkey bourbon shirt or whatever.
Mhm.
So you kind of get the exposure through that. And it's amazing. I mean, it's the members of the National Wild Turkey Federation were like NASCAR members.
Yeah.
If you had a driver in NASCAR that you were loyal to, you would do anything, spend anything to promote that driver. And that's why the NWTF was. I mean, these people, you helped promote their organization, and they were loyal as they could be. And it's just, the domestic sales just skyrocketed. So
I don't remember when the years were, but if you guys have ever, some of the advertising battles is, when it was Old Crow and Wild Turkey, right? And giving them the bird and all those different things, what years were those, Greg? Were those in the 80s or 70s or?
Yeah,
90s?
it was probably before I got started in 1998. A lot of that was a little before I got there, but
Okay.
again, we didn't, and
That's
luckily
fun
I think.
stuff.
Well, and again, I had some input on it because I told our marketing group, says, let's not compete with Oak Crow or Famous Grouse or whatever. Let's do our own thing. We don't have to bash them. Let's promote what we do and what we do best. Don't
That's pretty fun.
go that route. Yeah, it just I don't know. So
Well,
It's interesting.
and bourbon for a long time that's what I love about the industry. It's not a competition against somebody else. It's like put good whiskey and bourbon in the bottle. Make sure your packaging is catchy, and then work your ass off. Talk to people, tell people about it, and if you put good bourbon in it and they meet you, Bill, they meet you when they go to make the decision to buy it, or they want to come back to your distillery and buy it, they're going to make that decision because there's a story and as McBrayer, you have a whole history you're associated with. And you put good whiskey in the bottle. Why the hell won't people? There's no reason not to drink it.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, I hope that's what
I
people
don't.
say.
Yeah, I don't have. Let your brand speak for itself. Let the quality speak for itself. I have never bashed a competitor to promote my brand. It's just it's not worth it. You just talk about your brand and let's let it shine, man. That's all.
Yeah. John, how are you? It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, you as well, Bill. Thank you. I'm good.
How's the tornadoes going on up there in Chicago?
Bro, they had one land, Jeff, they had one land in Glen Ellen, right where we were a week ago.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, it wasn't a big one, but it was enough to knock my power out for almost 48 hours. So it just came on literally like, what time is it? Yeah, about hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah, I called the power company and I told them they better damn well get your power back on so you can watch my podcast.
He's so fucking influential.
Yeah. Jeff's like, he's got a magic.
Well, that Menasha tornado in Menasha, I had friends who had a daughter that she was out of contact for a good 6-7 hours after, and she did get someplace safe. So it was like but it was worrisome. I mean, you're seeing these drone footage, and the size of that tornado was insane.
Yeah, they got crushed up there, man. It was bad. It was,
I got to tell you, James and John Horan, they own Club Liquors up in Menasha, and they just bought it when shortly after I got connected with Chicken Cock. I was up there for 3 or 4 times doing tastings and bottle sign events. Great guys, and I mean, I'm concerned. Their dad was a doctor in the area, and I'm telling you what, they got hammered.
Well, the good thing is there was no fatalities. So
I didn't know that. That's
no,
good.
there's none. No fatalities.
I sent him an email today and just concerned because I mean, good people. I mean, it just tears your heart out when you see something like it happen.
But
you might not hear from them for a while. I mean, the infrastructure is pretty messed up. It's bad.
Oh yeah, it was.
We caught like that stuff. Jeff came down the lake and then it pushed out. You've been to my place. It pushed out, and like I was sitting here watching TV and literally no sirens. My phone alert is like tornado warning for my area. I'm like, what the hell? And the wind and the storm was picking up. I look out the window. I'm like, good criminy, like. Trees were going this way. I'm like, we're going to the basement, man. So yeah, it was. We lucked out. We had power outage. I had a big branch hit my house with no damage, but lots of trees down, power out. We had 380,000 people in the area, Chicago area, out. There's still probably about.
Was it a tornado?
Power. Yeah, so it was. We had a light one, so it was like an EF01. So it was like 80 to 100 mile an hour. We had straight line winds, but. I mean, the trees, dude, I just watched this thing come right down, right in front of my house on the right, my front door, if you're facing it, right to the left. It was huge branch just came down, a big limb. But, you drive around some of the other areas and like full trees down, 100-year oaks, just totally uprooted. So yeah, it was bad. I mean,
Oh yeah.
what do you do? I mean, I thought we had a warehouse C going on there for a minute, Greg. I was a little worried. So
You on the north side, on the north side, John, or what?
I'm west suburbs, so I'm pretty much due west about 22 or so miles from Chicago, but like it just blew right down. And like
Right.
they knew it was coming.
The whole area got hammered. I know that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they knew it was coming, and it just came out and like literally, it just blew up. Like, okay, we're expecting like a 5 to 7 p.m. No, like 11:30 in the morning. Just boom. That was it. Like,
Wow.
so anyway, but all good. Just glad to be here. Bill, good to meet you. Sorry.
So that bottle right there, that orange looking Cedar Brook bottle, it was distributed by Hannah Hogg in Chicago back during, right after Prohibition. This
Okay.
one right here above me. And it says established in 47 on it. And so I used the same font on that bottle for this bottle, right? That was
nice.
the same font that was on that bottle. And then the scroll came from the other old bottles that we had. So we used some historical things on it. And so there's two things, right? So I want to actually do that and say established in 47 and kind of remake that bottle. And I thought it'd be really cool if because we're a weeded bourbon, if I put it right on the shelf next to Maker's 46. Right?
That would be cool, actually.
47?
46, 47.
47.
Wait, a
46.
46, 47?
Yeah. That Jeff,
Yeah,
that's so
and
dead, but that was funny.
So if you can see it, that's how it looks.
There it
that's
is.
cool, man.
Wow.
Very
Right?
nice, Bill.
And so
That's
it's
cool.
amazing.
That's awesome. You got the trademark for that.
I love that
And
label,
it's
man.
full.
But
It's full, right?
have you had one? Have you tasted that?
Not that one.
Not that
So,
one there, but a brand like another bottle.
Yeah, so the old McBrayer from that was 18-year-old stuff from 1933. We've had a couple of those that have been open. But I got to tell you, and Chris, I don't know if you ever tried it. Do you remember did you see the Plankton Reserve Cardboy down at Revival?
Yep.
That he had, that 2.5 gallon. So that was made at the Cedar Brook
Yep.
Distillery.
I drank
Right?
that multiple times, and when it was gone, I was not happy.
I swear that's the best whiskey I've ever had.
I told Brad that. I said, this is probably my favorite thing I've ever had, because the first time I drank it, it's like you can't help but embellish and be like, oh my God, this is so good. But then you drink other stuff and you come back a week later or 2 weeks later or whatever it was, have it again.
Yeah.
I think I had that the third time with Royce Neely, because
Okay.
Royce was doing an event there and it was almost gone. And we drank that a little bit that night that we did a cigar thing.
So John, in just north of Chicago, there in Milwaukee, around where Marquette was, there was the Plankton Hotel.
Yeah.
And so they had private labeled from the Cedar Brook Distillery, Plankton Reserve bottles made. And they had them in they had them in a wooden box. They had carboys, and then they also had 750 milliliter bottles. And so that hotel, they were going to tear it down in the 1980s or something. And when they went to tear it down, they went to the basement and they saw this door that was bricked over, and they opened it up and it was full of all this pre-prohibition whiskey.
Oh man.
And it was all the Plankton Reserve that was made at Cedar Brook. And so there's been several people from there. There's this one guy, he had like 3 cases and he wanted to give it to me for stock in the business and all kinds of crazy stuff. And so, but then he knows Mrs. Plankton's secretary that has like hundreds of these bottles still in her basement, right? And so, but when he sells his, he's going to introduce her to people like Brad and myself. He was wanting all this money. I said, just call Brad. Let's call Brad, and Brad buys them once in a while, right? But it really is some of the best whiskey I've ever had.
That's awesome.
And how do you remake that, right? So somebody had asked, it might have been O'Sheen, about yeast strains and remaking things and things like that. I don't know that can you really, Greg, take some of that old whiskey? You can't really reverse engineer it and get yeast out of it, I don't believe.
You can, but I'm telling you what, if it's sealed properly and it doesn't oxidize, it's as good as in the bottle as it was the day it was put in. I'm telling you.
Oh,
Yeah.
you know, it's
gotta have a
phenomenal.
seal tight. Yeah.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
We
And
had,
so this stuff's been sitting in basements for 100 years.
Yeah.
You know?
we had last year on our bus tour. We do a bus tour every year on the Wednesday before the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, and we get together. But I bought two of the Dowling that he had, and I was like, I don't need, it was two that the labels were destroyed. He found the group, and there were better ones than other, and he got it to us for the bus tour. But both of those bottles were, like you said, Greg, sealed perfect. There was very little, it didn't lose too much. The fill level was really nice, and the taste of that. The cherry on that Dowling was just unbelievable. And then I was surprised. I had the first of the two bottles because we had two buses, and so when I came out, I had probably about 5/8 of each bottle left. So the one bottle I kind of was sampling at Bourbon on the Banks last year. So but then there was a little bit left. But as the fill, I was expecting, because it was so old, that, you leave it in the bottle after you open it and it'll go quick. But it didn't. It lasted about 6 months, and it's still, that last pour was still just as good as when we first opened it.
Believe so. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
As long as it's sealed tight, you're good. Yeah.
What?
Guys, I got to jump off because my phone literally just told me it was dying.
Yeah.
But
That's
thank
fine.
you, Bill, for being on.
Chris, Thank
And
you.
sorry that it took so long to make this happen. I
It's okay.
apologize for that, but the timing was amazing. I mean, for Bo to come out with the video just over the
Yeah.
weekend,
Yeah,
and
everybody
to be
check that
having
out.
you on, the timing was right. And again, just like you guys talked about earlier, it's not a coincidence that those things happen.
I don't think so. No. Chris, thank you so much. Guys, what other questions can I answer for any of you guys? Any other questions I can answer?
Is there
for you?
anything else? So when you were doing all this, just real quick, when you were doing your research, what did your research lead you to? What kind of bourbon did you like? I mean, which brands were you?
You got to think about this. This is 14 years ago, right? So 14 years ago. So what is this? 2012, right? So at that point, you're just Woodford and Makers, right? You're just learning to drink Woodford and Makers. And, I'm a guy from the 80s, right? So, I mean, we drank beer and we drank vodka, and then eventually I started drinking whiskey, and right. And I can tell you, there was a couple times, right? So first time I was really starting to drink a lot of bourbon, or more bourbon. And then when I first had the first Woodford double oak, I thought, man, that was really good. And the first time, and I think when it first came out, it was better than it is today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they make a lot.
Okay, good. Thank
They
you.
make a lot more now.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Okay, good. And then when Dixon said, here, I want you to try this, and he put these blind samples in front of me, and you're like, wow, that was really good. What was that? And he goes, well, that's 127 proof, right? And I did this, and I'm like, no way. And so then, I started really kind of thinking about those things. And, back then you could get, Eagle Rare 17 at a bar, right? You could try it, and you could try, some of these BTEC stuff, and you're like, wow, that's interesting. That's different, and I didn't have any money back then either. So it was harder to, do some of that stuff. And, cause you're just doing whatever and reinvesting in the other business I had every day and trying to raise kids and all that stuff. And so, but that's how I started. Right. And it was good. And I don't hardly ever drink a beer anymore. I just drink, it's whiskey and wine and coffee and water, and that's about it anymore.
I just recently tried to do. I went and visited John in Chicago with Matt, who's from Cleveland on the Rocks, and that guy does his whole thing's based off of all alcohol. So we're in there, and John knows a little bit about beer. So we went to Goose Island, and then we went to more.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a beer day, and it's been so long since I had a beer buzz. and I was like, this is soft and sleepy, and it's whiskey's sharp and
Well,
and
time out. So I think Matt sent me a couple of pictures of
yes,
of
he
you
has.
in deep sleep.
That
Deep
was,
sleep?
I mean, for God's sake, that was one.
Greg, Matt was picking on Jeff the whole weekend, man.
As he should have.
No.
As he should have.
No,
That was
I
defending
drove.
himself.
I'm the guy who drove the 5 hours at 4 to 9 o'clock in the morning, and then
Let me get my fucking violin out.
and then I was just, hey, Greg, those were all in between moments, and then
Oh, yeah.
one
You
third.
don't have to make excuses.
I mean, I thought I was doing great. You would have been like, holy crap, that guy's like grabbing a power nap between the two breweries.
Well, the truth is, I'd have been there with you, so I.
Listen, and Greg, to be honest with you, and Bill, we were drinking some of the beers. You know, you go to Goose and you drink those heavy ass stouts, man.
Oh yeah.
They're chewy.
Well,
And we were just drinking barrel aged stuff, and obviously so delicious. But like you know, after you have 2-3 ounces,
Yeah.
and it's a 14%er. You're like, wee.
well, I
Very
can tell you,
good.
there's
I get
I
it.
mean, when you don't drink a lot of beer and you have a good beer after a good hot day, man, it's really nothing any better.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
It's all
But
good.
that's how I started, Woodford and Makers, and then I started experimenting some other stuff. Then I'd go went up to Wild Turkey 101, and you kind of just start learning it, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, that's and even Jim Beam White Label, you're like, oh, this is pretty good. You just drink a bunch of it, and different
Sorry,
things.
I
So,
won't go there.
you won't be, well, when you're pouring, you're just learning and you're just figuring it out, right? I don't think it anymore.
I was
but-
poor most of my life, but yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, but anyhow, that's another story. I won't get into
Yeah,
it.
but that's how I got started, right? Just
Yeah,
learning those
yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So,
No,
Yeah.
that's cool. All right.
Bill, I got to tell you, it's such a pleasure meeting you, buddy, and love what you're doing with the old McBrayer
Thank you.
name. I think I may have put a comment earlier. I don't know if it was your dad, grandfather, whatever. When I worked at Wild Turkey from 1998 to 2008, we had an attorney, McBrayer, right off of 62 going through, or 62 going across the bridge past Wild
Okay.
Turkey.
Yeah.
Lived right off on the right there. Nice, big, beautiful house. Who was our attorney that we had retained every year. And shit, we never
Yeah.
used him for like 20 years. So.
Yeah. Well, there was a pretty prominent McBrayer law firm, and it was called McBrayer Law Firm in downtown Lexington.
Yes.
And he actually, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting his first name, and I feel so bad about it. He actually ran for governor. In the late 70s, early 80s. He actually ran the campaign for both, Bill Clinton's elections and Hillary's election. And
Okay.
when he passed away, I guess Bill Clinton called the family or something like that. So, I mean, he was a pretty prominent guy in
Oh, yeah.
town and in politics and things like that. So
Very much so.
big
Yeah.
name down there.
Yeah. Cool. That's cool.
Yeah, that is cool. Hi, Randy. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you guys doing?
Hey, Randy joined in. Hey, man.
Ready?
Yeah, I've got a box here that I have been saving. I almost opened it this weekend with some friends of mine. I'm saving it for a special occasion.
All right, batch 5. Look at that. That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Randy.
I cannot
The,
wait to share this with my buddies.
Well, that one is barrel strength at 106, I think, 0.8, and just won a double platinum at the Ascot Awards with that one.
Nice.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's
I'd love to hear from you once you open it.
Yep.
I will say the Ascot Awards this year. I think Fred, I've always been supportive, and the Ascot Awards have always been something. But it's almost like this year it's taken it's even on a different level of the turn that it's taken. It's kind of cool. It's like he's really establishing that as one of the top whiskey awards. I mean, he's done it in the past, but I just think he's reaching a level where the judges he's bringing in and everybody how he's going about doing it is very appealing to the whiskey drinkers, where he used to have a little bit of flack. He's not. Seems like the flack has disappeared.
Yeah, didn't
Well,
McCullough
it's not Fred anymore, right? It's these other people making the decisions. He's just overseeing it.
He works with them and everything, but he kind of guides everybody which direction to go.
Yeah, it's very good.
I think at Bourbon on the Banks, when they have that Friday night auction, I'm gonna wear an ascot.
There you
Guys,
go.
I'm gonna wrap
Randy.
up and
Randy, don't be an
anything else
asshole.
I can answer for you?
Do you have? Does anybody else have another question? Because yeah, Bill, it's getting late. I know.
Well, I do get up early. I do have another job still. So
Yeah, same here.
right.
Yeah,
But
I love it, I think.
yeah. Well, if there's no other questions, guys, really.
I've got
enjoyed
one
meeting
for you,
all of
Bill.
you. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I was.
Oh, there you are, Sheen. Sorry.
No, it's all right. I was wondering about craft distilleries and just historic ones like what you have, and thinking about yeast tenders. Is that something that you guys have considered bringing back? Making a proprietary yeast strain.
Yeah.
Having yeast
Well, right
tenders.
now, yeah. So our WH one, we did use a legacy or a what do you want to call it? An heirloom yeast strain that Wilderness Trail had. So we tried to keep on something that was time, appropriate for what we were trying to create there with the heirloom corn and the low barrel entry proof and that. Again, it's not proprietary, right? But it does fit the profile we're looking at. The other ones, we basically have been using. We like the profile of the old McBrayer. I don't even know what yeast strain they use over at Bardstown for that one, or the yeast strain they use on the Green River weeded stuff, right? But the mash bill that we're using is actually becoming unique to us on the old McBrayer one. That one was actually created at 70-18-12 for Angel's Envy, and then Angel's Envy quit using it, and so I bought all the barrels that they had of that mash bill at Bardstown Bourbon. I think there's only
live auction.
Right.
And so they got ready to ship them, but then they understood